Well, if you're a betting person right now, you'd probably have a few dollars on the teams having to change to wet tyres at some stage during this race. Not only does the forecast say that, but also the gusty winds that graphic tells you about is blowing these thick clouds in around the circuit. They're starting to gather. The temperature's not too bad, very pleasant, typical Queensland weather, but nevertheless, we may be in for some drama this afternoon. That gives you an idea of the location of the circuit near Ipswich, of course, southwest of Brisbane. I mentioned earlier in the program, 3.1 Ks, and there the lap records qualifying and during the race. Right now, let's head around that circuit with the one and only Greg Murphy and his team.
Well, welcome aboard again, the Kmart Racer at sunny Queensland Raceway, or as otherwise affectionately known by the race car drivers here, it's as the paperclip. And we're just going through up into turn 2 now at the circuit. The circuit's very, very flat. We've got 6 corners, 4 right-handers and 2 left-handers. And today, obviously, because we're back at an endurance-style races, we've got the pit stops. So today we're going to give you a little bit of a different thing. We're going to go into the pits to a practice pit stop as we would during the races. So I'm going to come into the pits, hand over to my teammate Todd Kelly, and he's going to take you out of the pit lane and onto the circuit. So we're coming now down the middle straight into the 2 left-hand corners, and I'll exit out of here and then make a pit call to my team manager, let him know I'm coming in, and then we'll do the pit stop. So exiting now onto the last straight. Rob on in lap now, coming in. So I've made my pit call. Now into pit lane, into first gear. My right thumb, or left thumb, sorry, goes onto the speed limiter. I now undo my belts and get ready to exit. The guys down there are waving for me. My speed's at 40 Ks. Now I'll unplug my radio, get ready for Todd to get in.
Hi, this is Todd Kelly, who just jumped in the car. Belts are on. First gear, speed limiter. Give the brake pedal a few pumps. Make sure we've got a good pedal after Greg's first stint. Now I just want to sit back, relax, and try and get in a good rhythm and conserve the tyres for the stint. Hope you enjoyed your lap with the Kmart Racing team.
And a lot of tactics at play here with the driver selection. Larry Perkins there starting for Perkins Ingle, but there are a lot of interesting combinations being employed here. And you'd have to say that after being second fastest in regular qualifying and then, because of a scathe spin, falling back to 15th on the grid for the actual start of the race, I wonder how aggressive Jason Bright will be at the start of this. Probably no need to be, gentlemen, when we get into this 500-kilometre event, because there's a long way to go.
Well, there's a long way to go. 161 laps, 500 kilometres at the VIP Pet Foods Queensland 500. And the big problem that HRT were faced with is that they had to recalibrate their strategy. They weren't banking on starting in 15th position, so they've had to rethink a few things overnight. It certainly made things interesting, Mark Osler.
Absolutely critical on this opening lap, or the opening laps for Holden Racing Team to get through that pack cleanly. And let's have a look how they start. The Queensland 500, Ambrose and Crick, Bernard and White, and all Stone Brothers Falcon front row. Mazira Longhurst will start off the second row with Perkins and Ingle alongside. Bowen Wills and Morris and Neal fill the third row. Johnson and Radicic, Seaton and Richards out of row 4.
From position 9, it's the highly talked about combination of Lowndes and Crompton, Larkham and Gardner. How will the former bike champ go? Murphy and Kelly, Ritter and Stokel in the second DJR car. Wheel and Lay, Tander and Bargwana, Scaife back in 15th. Bright starting, of course, and Pretty and Kelly.
One of the Kmart cars stuck on the grid behind the starting order you can see there. Ellery and Brabham, McConville and Bates. Forbes and Parsons, Jones and Clellan round out the top 20. Jim Richards and Dean Canto team up in the second FTR. Ford, Macro and Yulden. Richards and Fogg, they all team Kiwi. And Faulkner and Baird. Looks like problems in the background there.
And it's Pretty and Kelly.
Commodore.
Yeah, Nathan Pretty and Rick Kelly, they have come to a stop. We keep going through the grid. Ferrier and Dumbrell in the second. Valvoline, Cummins car, Harrison, Breed, McDougall and Madiki, Romano and Kelly. Brock and Owen, that's Jamie Brock, son of Peter, Donaher and Cranbrook, Nash and Ricciardello, Tratt and Jones out of position 32. Terry Ryhoon, Rod Salmon, Seiflich and McGill. Very fortunate to be in this field, and we'll talk about that later in the race. But the big thing is, right at the moment, Barry, this Kmart car, and look at that. That is very disappointing stuff. And I think that's Rick Kelly.
Yep. Yeah, 18-year-old Rick Kelly was supposed to make his V8 supercar debut, Baz, and it's lasted about 2 metres.
Well, can you imagine it? You have you have 2 days of qualifying and practice and that, and then you have the massive anti-climax of that. You've got to feel so sorry for the guys.
On board the FTR Ford, we're going to run our way through the cameras, the massive number of cameras we have up and down through the field here. That was with Stephen Richards. Now you're on board the Holden Racing Team Commodore, brand new car making its debut this weekend. Jason Bright will take the start. Mark Scaife will jump in later on. Larry Perkins, the veteran, was the winner here with Russell Engel in the inaugural Queensland 500 in 1999. Can they do it again in 2001?
Plenty more cameras. We go inside the sole remaining Kmart Commodore, and Todd Kelly, Greg Murphy will have plenty to show you from this car as well. We also go inside the Gibson Motorsport Falcon. Craig Lowndes and Neil Crompton. And here is Neil. He is starting. It's his return drive since Bathurst last year. He's been quite excited. He's been suffering from a little bit of the flu this weekend, but once he's inside the car, he'll put that behind him. And one more camera to go in today's coverage of the VIP Pet Foods Queensland 500. It's on board with the Rat and Junior Johnson inside the number 17 Shell Helix Ford as they line up on the newly named Dick Johnson front straight.
Yeah, the guy I feel most sorry for is Greg Crick in Marcus Ambrose's car, because he hasn't had a lot of running in the car, and the way it's set up, it doesn't really suit him, but let's hope he gets a good start, and if he can stay up the front for the first sort of couple of laps, it's amazing what that does for your confidence.
I think the key thing here with this strategy, running a lot of the second drivers, or the drivers who don't drive the cars regularly, get them out there in that opening stint, because traditionally in this race we've seen a lot of safety car laps in that opening stint. 34 starters as we check it out on the Ford race analysis. 161 laps, just over 500 kilometres in distance. That's the critical thing for the pit boys. 2 compulsory fuel stops. The window opens between lap 2 and lap 20, and they're also going to make a compulsory brake pad change between lap 48 and 120.
The last few vehicles coming into position. We are almost set to go. The VIP Pet Foods Queensland 500. This is round 9 of the 2001 Shell Championship Series, and we've got 2 non-regular drivers starting from the front row. They need to get a clean start, stay out of trouble.
Imagine the heart rate now.
161 laps left.
Oh no!
That is Matthew White, who's bogged it down off the start, and a tremendous start from Larry Perkins. Watch for the first turn. The Castrol Commodore takes the lead, and it's Thomas Mazira who jumps right into second position in the number 2 car. Paul Morris got away to a great start, but there's the Haviland Ford way back. Matthew White did not get a successful start at all.
Absolutely critical that Matt White doesn't get too excited here in this opening lap. We've got 500 kilometres of racing to go. He may have muffed the start, but he's got to get this thing through cleanly and don't put any damage on this car early in the race. There he is, back in the pack. But at least he's got away cleanly. Look at this battle now for the lead between the Castrol Commodore.
Oh, look at this one.
Paul Morris gets pushed wide, and Greg Crick in the Pertec Ford starts to surge his way back. Great start from John Bow as well. So we've got 3 of the veterans up front. Larry Perkins leads from in second position. Thomas Mazira hasn't been with HRT since 1996, and he's there challenging for the lead on lap 1. Then we go back to John Bow. It's the first of the Shell Fords. Then Greg Crick in the Pertec Ford. Paul Morris and Wayne and Mark Larkham in the Deco Rug Ford. There is Scaife. He's coming up. Good start from 15th. Mazira right on Perkins.
I tell you, he's going. His Bow's really caught up on a massive amount in that first lap.
So they come across the start-finish line the first time. Bow ducks out from behind Mazira's car. He's going to run side by side. Has he got the nose of the Cat Ford in front as they come under brakes? No. Just shuts the door. So it's Perkins in charge from Mazira. John Bow, Radicic in 4th. Then it's Crick, Morris, Larkham, Kelly, Bargwana, and Neil Crompton rounding out the top 10.
Look at Paul Radicic right on the former Shell Helix Ford driver, John Bow. This is an intriguing battle already, only on lap 2. And the Rat ducks to the inside, down the back straight, coming up into turn 3. He won't have enough this time round. He pulls right up alongside. Maybe he will have enough. Yes, and he has. The Rat's through. So an early move on lap 2. Still the same up front, though. Larry Perkins leads from Mazira. And Bow tucks in behind Radicic now. They're starting to pull away, settling themselves down. There is a long way to go. Here's a replay of the start. Look at Matthew White on the right of screen, lucky not to be hit, and Larry Perkins got a flyer.
Well, it shows your reactions don't slow down with those, doesn't it? That was great by Larry.
Good work by Matthew White too. I mean, he did bog it down, but he managed to get it away cleanly. He could have been stuck there and got rear-ended at high speed, so he'd be breathing a sigh of relief, even if he's back in the pack a little. Yeah,
he's down in 15th place now.
On board with the Gibson Motorsport Ford. This is Crompton ducking up the inside of Matthew White, the front row starter, and suddenly went a long way back. So Perkins leads from Mazira, Radicic, Bow, Paul Morris, Greg Crick, Mark Larkham, Todd Kelly, Bargwanna and Crompton round out the top 10. Bright has worked his way up from 15th to 11th position in the Scaife Bright car. McConville, Richards, Ritter and Matthew White from the front row back to 15th.
Look at the amount of speed that Mazira gets out of turn 2 as they come up the back straight once again, building up to 240 kilometres an hour. They're side by side as Mazira goes to the inside, beautifully positioned under brakes into turn 3.
And Radicic follows him.
Holden Racing Team Commodore takes control. Radicic takes advantage of that hole. 500 kilometres of racing ahead, 161 laps. Don't want to push too hard on your tyres, and John Bow's up there as well.
But Mark, this is a graphic illustration of just how things have changed with this new Bridgestone tyre. Remember, only 2 years ago, this is only the 3rd year of the Queensland 500. 2 years ago on the opening laps, they were opening the door, they were moving over and letting people go past because they were so concerned about tyre conservation. They're into it right from the word go in season 2001.
You won't believe the heartache down here at the Kmart Racing team. Rick Kelly reported that problem on the start line was they broke something on the warm-up lap. Now they're out of contention. They were looking so strong qualifying 16th position, but now their day is shot.
Good effort from Paul Morris in the opening laps of this race. He's right up behind Larry Perkins now as the Strathfield in-car camera looking out the back of the Castrol Commodore shows Paul Morris well in contention here up in 5th. Their first flying lap was a 1:14.2. They've now dropped into the 1:13s, a 1:13.7 for a race leader Thomas Mazira. 1:13.5, the fastest lap so far from this man, Paul Morris. Indication of how he's closing on this leading quartet.
Yeah, Paul's car's been going really good the last couple of races. And don't forget, this is his home track, his test track. So, whoa, look at this, how bump and grind there. Poor old Greg Carrick, I really feel sorry for him. That's Tander, just in front there. And Neil Crompton on the outside.
His assignment for someone who's done such little time in this car is just to keep it clean. And if he can keep it in the top 10, top 12, up until that first driver change, the Stone brothers will consider it mission accomplished.
Crompton currently sitting in 11th position, and just behind him is Cameron McConville, who's done a great job in the Optus Commodore because he did not qualify in the top 15, and there he is already starting to make his presence felt. And the second DJ Arco, we've had a change of the lead up front. The 17 car, Paul Radicic, has gone into the lead. Larkham starting to work his way up as well. A good, strong run for the Larkham-Gardner combination.
Radicic pushing hard that lap. Fastest lap so far, though, is Mark Larkham, a 1:12.7, the only driver to drop into that time sector. So Larkham pushing hard. You can see him coming into contention there. He's 6th on the road at the moment and closing on this leading bunch very quickly.
Paul Radicic and Stephen Johnson have a brand new AU XR8 Falcon this weekend. There it is, beautifully turned out car, and they really want to make the most of this round. Stephen Johnson had the motivation that if the Scaife Bright combination have a DNF this round or don't finish very well, he can possibly take the championship lead. Look at McConville on Crompton. The inside braking move down into 4. Look at this. Oh, this could turn out nasty, but it hasn't. McConville's gone up on the curb, and one of the FTR cars is trying to make advantage of that. They have. Nice work. That's the Stephen Richards, Glenn Seaton combination.
Well, Greg Crick, his last lap around was a 1:16.2, so I get the impression that Cricky may be holding up a bunch of cars behind him. Keep an eye on that, but you can see them now forming bumper to bumper behind the Pertec Ford. So Greg Crick really starting to feel the pressure as these faster cars start to close on the back. Paul Morris up the inside of the Castrol Commodore now. Mark Larkham is setting up his sights on the Castrol Commodore.
Oh, Larry's not giving that one away.
Look at this. Door handle to door handle, 200 kilometres an hour, punching out of turn 2. Larry takes the position back, and Larkham takes advantage of Morris's slow exit speed, and he gets up the inside of the big Kev racer on the run down to turn 3.
Well, this is magnificent to see Mark Larkham up in such a strong position so early. They've had such a dreadful year and bad luck with sponsorship problems. They're running a new sponsor for this round in VIP Pet Foods, just for this round only. But their loyal sponsors in Deco Rug and Karcher have stayed with them, and they really deserve a good run this round. Let's hope that it continues throughout the 161 laps. Larkham's running very well at the moment, right behind the inaugural Queensland 500 race winner Larry Perkins.
Fastest lap so far goes to Paul Radicic, our race leader, a 1:12.58 in the Shell Ford. He just set that time, so he's punching out some quick lap times in the Shell car. Keep in mind, that's one of the local teams that has this as their nominated test track. And Greg Crick is under siege. Crompton's got through. Seaton's got through. Now he's under fire from Cameron McConville. And it looks like the second Shell Ford is closing in on that bunch.
That's a good job from Greg Ritter so far. Ritter is sitting in 14th position, and he's running with Shell Series regulars, Barry. It's a good job.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, DJ Dick Johnson really thinks a lot of him, and as you say, he hasn't had an awful lot of running in the car or anything, and he's going quick. I was just looking, Matthew White now, he's in 15th place.
So the move for the lead, the overtaking move earlier on. This is Paul Radicic on Thomas Mazira coming into turn 4 and 5. It was pretty tight there. A little bit of contact between the Ford and the Commodore, but the Rat pushes through.
You had to stick her up on the curve on the inside there.
Yeah, they certainly have an aggressive race plan. I was talking to team manager Dean Orr this morning. He said, those blokes gesturing to the red Commodores down the pit lane, he said, we want to race them today. We want to push hard and give them a real fight for their money. Well, they've started off well. But the real way to win this race, as we've seen in the past, is good tactical calls. HRT showed everyone how to do it.
So
Problems here in the Gibson Motorsport garage. A big fire for the Rodney Forbes David Parsons Falcon. Fire marshals on the scene.
Yeah, down here in pit lane, the car was just parked, pulled into the garage, obviously had a problem. As soon as he tried to shut the engine off, it must have backfired at the edge of the bay. And burst into fire there now. The fire marshals are on it, of course, trying to put it out now. But it looks like it's still going underneath the bonnet there. But a serious situation down here in pit lane.
That's not the first time that the Gibson Motorsport team have suffered from fires in the car. They had one earlier this weekend with Craig Lowndes and Neil Crompton's car. And they suffered a similar situation at testing as Mark Larkin makes an inside move on Larry Perkins. He's coming from a long way back. That's pretty ambitious, but it's paid off for Larkin. Larry won't want to relinquish that position. They go side by side. Larry will have the preferred line into this next left-hander. Coming up into turn 4, Perkins will hold on. Larkin will have the long way around. So a good, strong run from Larry Perkins. It's great to see him back up there. His best result this year has been 6th. It's been a fairly mediocre year for Larry. Oh, he's been turned around! Larkin has hit him, and off he goes. So contact there between Larkin and Perkins.
Oh, kept it all together, though. Well done.
Well, he gets back on the track, but now he's picked up a whole lot of dirt and garbage in those tyres. He won't be happy about that. Larry's been doing some great lap times in this opening stint. We'll see Crompton now moves up to try and pounce on the Castrol Commodore as he gets back up to race speed. Paul Radicic, though.
Oh, look at this. Yeah, it's Larry up the inside there. And was there contact? I don't know. I couldn't. Let's have a look here. It's Larkin. It's close. Well, it was Larry's corner. Was there a tap?
Looks like there might be. Hang on.
Oh, yes, yeah, there was.
So, battle for position early in the Queensland 500. Let's have a look at the Shell Helix replay from another angle. There it is. Just contact in the rear left fender. As Larkham comes in now to serve his stop-go penalty. What a crushing blow to the Larkham Motorsport team.
Morris has dropped back a couple of positions. He's dropped behind Todd Kelly now, running in 7th in the Big Kev Racer. And Larry Perkins has dropped from 4th back to 10th. He'll pick up a position. We've had contact between McConville and Crompton.
Crompton, not
So top corner, that's turn 6. It's all happening at Willowbanks, and Crompton's got problems to the rear right, or was he just lighting it up?
No, I think rear right damage.
So it's all happening at Queensland Raceway. Contact there between McConville and Crompton. Here comes Mark Larkham to serve his stop-go. Gets the green paddle, and he's back into action, but he's lost a lot of track position. Look at this, Crompton.
That's it.
Or maybe pick the front right eye up or something. It's just a real battle.
Crompton not happy with the car.
Okay.
And he looks like he's headed for the pit lane as well. He's got smoke belching from that left rear tyre. So perhaps contact with McConville has damaged the bodywork. But as we've seen a number of times, it's usually only a problem when the car is loaded up in that direction.
Get out of his way a little bit to make some room because he's going to dive bomb the thing, which he managed to do anyway.
They haven't been happy with the setup of that car all weekend. So they've been battling with that, and it looks like they are still struggling with it. Neil Crompton will bring that car in from some adjustments.
He may choose to stay out there. He could be telling the team that he's not happy with the car, and maybe the adjustments that they're talking about will be when the scheduled stop because they wouldn't want to come in for a stop any earlier than planned. A lot of teams will be hoping to hang out there at least till that magic 54, 55 lap zone. But Crompton is coming in, so problems that they cannot contend with in this car. So that's a blow to the Gibson Motorsport team early in the Queensland 500, lap 13.
And Paul Radicic, race leader, is currently enjoying a 3.5-second lead up front over Thomas Mazira, who has run a very clever race so far. Crompton brings the Gibson Motorsport Ford in.
What a day for Gibson Motorsport. First the fire with Rodney Forbes, and now Neil Crompton with that contact. Looking at the right rear tyre, doesn't seem to be too much problem there. There was rubbing on the guard on the former tyre, but I don't think it will be a problem this time. Cromley will now drop the car and head out very, very shortly.
Did hear Neil talking about adjusting ride heights, etc., to make the car a little more comfortable. Let's hope it's better this time round. We're on lap 14 of 161.
That was an intriguing pit stop, but now it appears the race is over.
Well, no doubt the boys down in the pits will get onto this story and tell us what happened there, but it did seem very strange that he had this tyre rubbing against the body. They brought him in. There was no attempt to fix or drag the damaged guard away from the tyre. And I wonder if this is a...
Brakes, brother. Why would you be that far down into that?
Not sure.
That's a very, very odd place to go off the circuit and in that shape. So we can only assume that Neil Crompton has run into brake problems. We continue on lap 18 of 161, and there's pressure here. Here comes the Kelly-Murphy combination, and Stephen Richards has made a very strong start as well. So Bright, Kelly and Richards are the three big movers in this field. And there is Craig Lowndes. He has not even got in the car yet. And then there's Rodney Forbes, who has stepped out of the other Gibson car.
Yeah, but a terrible day for
It's been a
Gibson.
nightmare for those guys.
Both cars out, 17 laps gone. That's not what you normally see at a Gibson Motorsport operation, particularly in endurance races. But now this battle continues for fourth place between John Bowe and Todd Kelly as they head down into turn 3.
Got to hand it to Brighty. He's flying, isn't he?
That's the driver of the race so far, Jason Bright. He started 15th, right in the middle of the pack, and he's got his way right up to third place. Let's have a look at the Crompton incident again.
Oh, the right rear lot.
I reckon that rear tyre's cut.
I reckon you're right, because it definitely went right rear, didn't it?
Yeah, I reckon he's cut a rear tyre.
That's the one that we've seen rubbing all the time, haven't we?
Boys in the pits will be able to tell us, but we're only just sort of thinking that may be the problem at this stage. But Crompton, huge disappointment in his return to V8 Supercar.
We've been talking about not only Paul Radicic and his dominance up front, but Jason Bright and his big move, and Kelly and Richards. Someone else who has done a stunning job out there has been Brad Jones in the Aussie Male Falcon. He qualified outside the top 20. He is up to 12th position and really on a surge. So keep your eyes out for the Aussie Male car. He's going well also, but it's Radicic who leads. Here's Bright already on the sister car. Jason Bright moves up the inside. This is just one of the things that he has not yet conquered. The former Australian Formula Ford champion, Formula Holden champion. Of course, that season in Indy Lights last year. He's won Bathurst before, but has not done this race. So he would like to do it with new teammate Mark Scaife, and he's certainly driven superbly so far. Out of turn 5, here they come. The first lap back in anger. 27 of 161, early days, a long way to go here at Willowbank.
You can see how softly they set these Holden Racing Team cars up, particularly under brakes. They really pitch, and under corners they really roll. But that's the way you've got to do it to make the tyres live. When you go through the corner, you don't want the car to dump onto the tyre. You want to just lean gently onto it in terms of its weight transfer, so it's not torturing the tyre. That's the way you've got to get through a full stint with your rubber in good condition.
Yeah, well, if you look at all the cars this year are set up a lot softer than they were last year, because it's really bumpy, especially into turn 1 and turn 3. It's horrific. So if you don't set the thing up really soft, at least on the front anyway, it's going to lock up and go straight on.
It's just one of the hardest things too, Baz, is disciplining the drivers to learn to drive the cars in that condition. It's not, I'll tell you, it's not very pleasant. You know, the car rolling and pitching and moving all over the place, but that's the only way you can make the tyres survive under the weight of these enormously heavy and powerful cars.
This battle continues between the Kmart car and the FTR car, and former Kmart team driver Stephen Richards, now the FTR pilot. He's doing very well. Currently in 6th position. Todd Kelly is immediately ahead. Now it looks like Stephen Richards will do the majority of the workload in this car today. Glenn Seaton will jump in for the middle stint, and it looks like Richards will go and do the majority of it.
Great shots here. Stephen Richards closes in on the back of Todd Kelly as they come onto the main straight. Once again, the order. Paul Radicic, he's already opening up that gap. 2 seconds now over Jason Bright in second, Thomas Mazira in third, John Bowe in fourth. Then it's Todd Kelly, Stephen Richards, Paul Morris still hanging on in seventh, but he is crook. Greg Greger up to eighth, Jason Bargwana in ninth, and Larry Perkins now 10th. Matt White, after fighting back from that terrible start, he's sitting just outside the top 10 in 11th spot.
And that's not too bad if he can keep the car around that top 10 when he hands it back to David Bernard. I'm sure the Stone brothers won't be too displeased with that.
No, they were looking for top 10 performances from both their replacement drivers before they've got their #1 drivers into the cars for the remainder of the day. So it looks like both David Bernard and Marcus Ambrose are going to be called on to do double stints this afternoon.
When you see the way that Radicic is going and you see how strong Steve Johnson is this year, if they don't have any problems, it's going to have to take a lot of the catching, no doubt.
Radicic does another 1 minute 12.2. His fastest lap so far was on lap 10, a 1:12.1, so it just shows the speed and consistency of those Shell Fords. It's now lap 28, and Radicic is within 1/10 of his fastest lap set much earlier in the race, so the Shell Fords really have a great setup around here.
On board with the 2 times Bathurst winner, Steve Richards, and there's a bit of a skirmish up there. It looked like Steve Ellery in the super cheap car was trying to force the issue. As they come onto the Dick Johnson main straight, he's ahead of McConville and pressuring to get past. It looks like the Rod Salmon car, and he does easily on the inside. Is it the Craig Harris car? Indeed it is. McConville trying to fight back after that earlier contact with Crompton. The field well and truly have sorted themselves out now. There's the Pertec Ford, Greg Crick, currently sitting a little further down the order in 17th position behind McConville and ahead of Romano. He has some work to do.
And here is another disaster. Mark Larkham in the pits. And boy, the hard luck stories continue for men who just keep running into it. Crompton and now Larkham.
Well, you heard Mark Larkham say there on the radio, come on guys, don't give up. You get points all the way down to 32nd. That's correct. And they will not stop. They've got suspension problems, but they'll keep on surging on.
Well, I'm down here in pit lane at the moment. Mark Larkham is getting out of the car. It is collapsed front suspension. We might try and have a word to him. Mark, did it give you any indication that there was going to be some dilemma like this develop?
Oh, I think it's my fault, Rusty, when I tagged Larry in those early laps. I've obviously done something to the front suspension and it's finally given up, yeah.
What's the plan from here? Wayne looks like he's getting ready to get in the car. You still plan to fix it?
Yeah, I'd like to give Wayne some time in the car during the race, so I mean, it's all good preparation for Bathurst, yeah?
Rotten luck, Mark.
Oh, well.
I think Greg Crick is another man feeling the pressure out there. He just had a spin when we were in the commercial break. Lost a fair bit of position. He's got back onto the track, but hopefully he hasn't flat spotted the tyres. He is really under pressure out there, the Tasmanian. Just trying to get an idea of how far behind the race leader he is now. But Marcus Ambrose will be a nervous man watching on from pit lane. The gap now is 37 seconds back to the race leader for the Pertec Falcon.
Currently looking at 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, as long as you want to go back. The 2 Fords battling it out. It's John Bowe and Stephen Richards. The FTR car has done a very good job so far on these early 35 laps. The Queensland 500.
Well, John Bowe is the cork in the bottle here. He's been watching his lap times over the last 2 or 3 laps. He's just done a 14.2. Everyone behind him's going quicker, and you can see the car starting to queue up behind him. So John Bowe now fighting a hand. Look at the number of cars all sitting behind him in a big queue. And one of those is Greg Ritter in the Shell Ford. He's done a brilliant opening stint. V8 driver with not a lot of experience. He's up in 7th, doing the Shell team proud, certainly proving their selection was correct. Taking the Formula Ford champion from 1999 on board. So the order is still Radicic leading. Jason Bright's taken the fastest lap of the race, though, a 1:12.02. And there is a real slogging match going on between Radicic and Bright at the front of this field. Gap never more than 2.5 seconds between the Shell Ford and the Holden Racing Team Commodore as this absorbing battle continues for 4th place. John Bowe in 4th. He's got Stephen Richards, Todd Kelly, Greg Ritter, Paul Morris, Larry Perkins all queued up behind him.
Well, John Bowe's really starting to feel the pressure. Here comes Stephen Richards. You ride with him now. The inside look into turn 3. It's going to be tight, not enough. Contact there. A little nudge, a little bit of a love tap. Pushes him wide and more contact. Smashes the mirror on the side there as they run side by side. And that is not quite smashed the mirror off, just bent it in as they head into turn 4. Bowe has track position for there. Now don't do a Mark Larkham here, Stephen. Hang on to it because this is where Mark pushed a little too hard by his own admission. Went on the inside there when he collided with Larry Perkins. That's why he's in pit lane now.
Boy, Steve came from a long way back there.
He's going to have another go too.
Oh, yeah.
Into turn 6.
Down.
So, can't keep a good man down. He just built up another head of steam, had another go at the Cat Ford into turn 6. So Richards Great drive.
Now that sounded to me, that might have even been Glenn Seaton talking to Stephen, just saying calm it down, settle it down, keep it going well, concentrate on the car in front. He's doing a very, very good job at the moment.
Started in 8th place, he's forged his way up to 4th. So Stephen Richards pushing hard in the FTR Falcon. Those guys need a good result here. Glenn Seaton has been struggling for speed, particularly in the last couple of Shell Championship Series rounds. They went back to the workshop, pulled the front end down. They reckon they found a couple of geometry problems that would have been costing them some time. And certainly concentrating on race setup on the build-up to this one. Well, that car's performing beautifully at the moment.
Todd Kelly, we'll talk about Todd in just a moment. Here's the replay of Greg Crick spinning in the Pertec Ford.
May have been contact with that
Romano
young Lions car. Now look at this battle. This is the battle for the lead. Paul Radicic still leading. 1.7 seconds the gap, and Jason Bright has now set the fastest lap of the race, a 1:11.98 on lap 39. So the Holden Racing team obviously showing the car is very consistent. They can punch out fast laps no matter whether it's on lap 1 or lap 161. That's allowed him to close the gap to the race leader.
And he's within a second of Garth Tander's existing lap record. So Jason Bright building up to some good work here at Willowbank, and a little further back is that sister car. Car number 2, the combination of Thomas Mazira and Tony Longhurst. Longhurst yet to get in the car, but this is Jason Bright doing a fine job in second place, hunting down the rat.
We have several Konica V8 supercar teams running here this weekend, but you won't see the One World Sport AU of Rod Salmon and Terry Waihoon, the Super Speedway champion, running around anymore. The engine temperature has just got too high and they've been forced to park it.
A couple of anxious moments down here in the Kmart Racing pit. The Todd Kelly car has been informed that the Velcro strip, which signifies the brake pad change has been completed, has fallen off that car. Now the Avesco officials have been down here. They've said, look, so long as the guys in the crew mimic that they have taken off that Velcro strip, they'll be satisfied that the brake pad stop has been completed correctly.
Yeah, there's plenty of mimics down there in pit lane, eh?
Speak very high there, you, Mark.
Well, that'll be interesting to watch.
I think this is wonderful to see Thomas Mazira and Tony Longhurst back in competitive cars to see what they really can do.
That's so true, isn't it? So true.
Well, is there problems here for Stephen Richards? Yes, there is.
Is that car 5?
We're here, ready.
Oh, problems here. He's just been passed by Greg Red.
Oh! Paul Morris.
Didn't have enough problems. He's just got a big hit in the rear from the big Kev racer. So Stephen Richards was slowing down, no doubt about it. Ritter had got past him. So now he's got to try and head into the pits with the Gran Turismo 3 camera on board. Well, are we going to see...
What just happened there, mate?
Are we going to see another rash?
Maybe.
No, there's no damage at all. Have a look at the right rear.
Yeah, they will have to have a very close look at that right rear.
Maybe Paul Morris didn't see him slowing down, you know.
Well, this is a valuable time here, very important time for FTR.
Well, it's an important time for more reasons than one, Lee. Glenn Seaton very quickly grabbed his helmet, but you'll notice the amount of laps that have been completed aren't the minimum for one driver. One driver in this race, at least one in the two teams, if you like, must complete a minimum of 54 laps. So this is a tough stop for this team. They can't do the driver change they'd planned.
Yeah, are we going to see another Ford failure at Queensland Raceway? We've seen a few fall already. Craig Lowndes and Neil Crompton out, Rodney Forbes and David Parsons. Problems here now for the Seaton Richards car. Boy, oh boy, Mark Larkham out with suspension failure. Fords are falling.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. You can't see with that, it's a little bit late, but I guess there's every possibility that Morris didn't see that he was slowing right up. Now, let's have a look.
Look how fast Paul Morris is coming up on him.
Oh, yeah, I have to say that was... Yeah, he did see that he was... yeah, he came in very, very quick, didn't he?
We're slowly creeping towards the halfway mark of the VIP Pet Foods Queensland 500. Paul Morris struggling out there, not at 100% fitness. He's suffering from the flu, and he's doing his best in hot, tough conditions here at Queensland Raceway. The big Kev racer, will it be in contention today? Well, questionable, but Paul Morris is continuing to do his best out there at the moment.
He's got another, how many laps? Another 6 laps he's got to do before he can get out of it. Can you imagine if you got the flu and you think, oh...
Yeah,
red
those last 6 laps would feel like 1,000 kilometres, wouldn't they?
Horrible.
Now earlier, before the safety car came out onto the circuit, Paul Radicic was enjoying a 7.5 second lead over the field. The Rat hasn't wasted any time. It's now 5.5 seconds over Jason Bright. So the 17 Ford is going very, very well. So too is Brad Jones. He qualified outside the top 20. And look, here he is now, charging in 7th position. He's teamed up with former British Touring Car Champion and the really likeable Scot, John Cleland, and Cleland will be getting in the car soon. And here we go, first of the major pit stops. This is the 18 Shell Helix Ford. Ritter out, Paul Stokel in. This needs to be slick.
Keep in mind too that they haven't done 54 laps at this stage, so the stint I'd say for Paul Stokel will be around the 54 marker, and they'll probably throw Greg Ritter back in the car for a flying finish. But this has been an excellent start for the 18 Shell Helix Ford.
Let's hope that Paul Stokel can go on with it. He's a very experienced driver. He's been around for a long time and driven a lot of different cars. He's certainly not new to V8 supercars. He's being reminded. Pit lane speed. We've had a big collision out there. That is the Bargwanna Tanda car and Cameron McConville. Those guys were battling for a top 10 position. Bargwanna was in 9th, McConville was in 10th.
Cameron's, that's the second incident he's been involved in this today. Crompton, the earlier one.
Guys, you obviously saw that. It's been hit pretty hard in the rear. I'm obviously coming in.
Bargwanna tells him he's coming in.
Okay, copy that, Bargwanna, in this lap, got that bit.
It looks like there's damage to that left rear tyre or left rear wheel. Let's have a look. Oh, might be left suspension damage too. Look at that.
Yeah, it is. Look,
there's the collapse under the rear of that car. You can see it's sitting right down on that left rear corner. So something's broken in the rear axle assembly. That's major damage for the Valvoline Cummins car. And we don't know yet of the damage to the Lansvale Racing Team car driven by McConville.
And their outstanding effort of 2 second places in the last 2 years looks like it will not be repeated in 2001.
Feverish work down here.
Well, this is going to be frantic down here for the Valvoline Cummins race team. Garth Tander getting in. Jason Bargwanna is out, but I just had a word to team boss Gary Rogers. He is not confident that this car will be right by the time they fix it and get it back out on track.
No, it's got pretty heavy damage. You can see it graphically as he rolled into pit lane. The team choosing to do their pad change, but I think they've shut the engine down as well. Garth Tander gets in. Jason Bargwanna gets out.
Nega, hold the car until we have a look under the rear. Hold the car.
So they're telling the car controller not to release that car until they've had a look under here. And obviously there's some pretty serious damage for the car to be sitting down like it was.
And we've had word too that race control have asked for a replay of this incident.
Look at
that's
that.
why it broke.
That's a hit and a half, isn't it?
That
what
was
a hit.
Fair old thump, wasn't it?
Now we don't know how the Lansvale Racing Team Commodore is, but an impact like that,
base, I would say.
yeah, you'd imagine there'd be some equally bad damage. The Valvoline Cummins mechanics having a look under the car, trying to find what the problem is, how bad it is, whether they can get back in the race. Let's have a look at this on the Shell Helix replay.
Oh, he's lucky not to go over.
Yeah, really lucky.
Well, we just had a look at the replay. Jason Bargwanna has just joined us down here in pit lane. What happened?
Well, you've had a look at the replay. I got past Paul Morris and I saw Cameron in the mirror. And Cameron's obviously had a fairly serious dive down the inside. I've given him room, but he was obviously just continuing to come through. It's, look, it's very disappointing. I was feeling quite comfortable in the car. We had a bit of a problem with the rear brakes, but we managed to get on top of that, and we're just pushing on, and well, it looks like we're in trouble.
Do you know what it might be?
Oh, look, something's broken in the rear of the car. It's moving around all over the place, so yeah, it's just hard to say at the moment. It's really disappointing for all the fans that were supporting us, but anyway.
Rotten luck, Jason.
Thanks.
Paul Radicic, meanwhile, continues to lead the race. 6.2 seconds, the gap between himself and Jason Bright. Thomas Mazzira still out there, Todd Kelly, Larry Perkins, so the sole remaining Valvoline Cummins car. Here comes Greg Crick in the Pertec Ford. It's been a very difficult assignment for the Tasmanian. He's done minimal time in the car during the week, but he's done a great job to bring it in one piece.
Greg Crick getting out of the car. Ambrose endeavouring to get in. Let's see if this is a slicker stop than the one for the Caltex Haviland Ford. You'll notice they are changing the front brake pads on this car. So getting rid of the brake pad stop on average, a stop for pads and fuel will take around about the 28 to 30 second mark if it's done properly and quickly. Ambrose electing by the sounds of things to do the double stint. As the guys have been talking about, 27 or so seconds gone already. This is turning into a longer stop. The pad's only just coming out on the front right. We'll see the fresh ones go in here. This is going to be a longer stop as well for the Pertec Ford.
Oh, look at this. You can see the difficulty when these components are so hot. They haven't had the hydraulic pistons pushed back far enough in the calipers. Look, it's getting up toward a minute now. And you can hear people yelling the panic, the frustration. Seconds ticking away here. We're getting up toward a minute for the Stone Brothers team.
Yeah, the pistons are what's happened. The pistons have come out where the pads are worn down. You put a new pad in there, you have to push the pistons back.
Fully back.
Yeah.
Oh, just imagine what it's like
for Ambrose.
And the front right wheel man there. Enormous pressure. You can see this situation slipping away. They've lost a lot of time on the race leaders during Greg Crick's stint. Now the car is still motionless in pit lane. Boy, oh boy. We saw this last year in the Queensland 500. A number of the Ford teams just lost the race through tactical problems and mistakes. And they're seeing a major drama here for the Stone Brothers team.
Oh, he's turned the engine off.
Well, the trouble is when the thing's sitting there, it gets so hot, doesn't they?
Just radio check. Everything all right there, mate? Just relax. We'll be all right. Don't panic, mate. We can make it up.
Rich reassurance there for Marcus Ambrose. He's a very intense young racer. In comes the Aussie male Ford as well. So John Clellan, you can see there, he's about to jump in. Brad Jones, well done. Fantastic job by him.
What a nightmare of a job changing pads. You just don't realise how hot they are, do you?
This shows how things can go wrong too.
Yeah.
Over 2 minutes for this stop for Marcus Ambrose, and that is a lifetime. He finally exits pit lane, but what a long stop, and he's a little bit of trouble getting around Brad Jones on the exit as well. That is not the stop the Stone Brothers team were looking for.
Yeah, but watch Ambrose go now. He's lost a lot of time, but watch him go. Boy, can that young guy drive. Brad Jones, well, you could expect him to be slightly exhausted. He worked very, very hard in that stint and got the Aussie male car right up into contention. Now let's see if his overseas driver, the Scotsman, John Clellan, can do the same. Mark Scaife, here he is, the defending champion of this race, this series. He is set to go and jump on board the #1 HRT Commodore, the moment Scaife's been waiting for to defend at the Queensland 500. We've lost the McGill Skyfleet car.
We hear that Paul Radisich is getting ready to come in as well. So this much expected battle between the Shell Dick Johnson Racing Team and HRT is on in earnest. Here is the car in second position. Jason Bright, 5.9 seconds behind race leader Paul Radisich.
At the shoulders, and then pull your radio plug when you're in. Once you tell us you're in his lane.
You can hear the instructions.
Nice and easy.
Instructions to Jason Bright there. The sequence the drivers have to go through when they unplug themselves, get out of the car, to reverse the process when the other driver gets in. Jim Richards jumps out. Young Dean Canto, Konica champion in 2000, jumps in for his stint. And look at this. Here is the race leader and the man in second place. Boy, pressure here for the Holden Racing Team mechanics and the Dick Johnson Racing crew. Every second will be crucial.
Every second will be crucial, and when they came in, there was 5.9 seconds the margin. This is where the crew really earn their money. They have to be cool, calm, but fast.
Stephen Johnson getting in, Paul Radisich already out there using, keep in mind, that little innovation. When Paul pulls up to the mark here in pit bay, he pulls a lever which automatically drops the seat back into the position that Stephen likes it. What Stephen will do is grab the steering wheel and pull it back towards him in a few moments' time, and he'll be in the optimum position ready for racing. They've completed the fuel stop, and away goes Stephen Johnson.
Nice stop.
Slick stop.
Oh, yeah.
The racing team have done their pad change.
Go! Pump the pedal, pump the pedal, pump the pedal.
Pump the pedal is the instruction. New pads in the car. Want to get a nice hard pedal.
And the number 17 car returns to the track. Still a pad change to come for the Shell Helix Ford. Well, Mark Scaife, that has already been done for the #1 HRT Commodore, and they are set up. Jason Bright has set the platform for Mark Scaife to pounce and defend this VIP Pet Foods Queensland 500 crown, and certainly assist in his quest for a back-to-back Shell Series crown.
Race leader Stephen Johnson now. 1:12.93 his last lap. 1:12.45 for Scaife. The gap between them 1.3 seconds. So this is maximum pressure driving for both these drivers and both these teams.
You're here with Leanne Ferrier. Of course, Leanne was the first female to make a podium in V8 Supercars, and you're making your Shell Championship debut here this weekend, going very well in 18.
Yeah, I think it's all going to plan so far. I mean, we've kept it all in one piece, kept it straight, kept it going, and we've now made our first stop. Paul's in the car and he's doing really well.
Will he take it to the flag from here, or will you jump back in this afternoon?
Well, I'm not sure yet. I think we're kind of playing it a little bit by ear. I mean, he's going to, I think, go a little bit longer than I did, but, you know, as to whether I get back in or not, we'll have to see.
What a great year so far for you. Your first time in V8 Supercars. Gary Rogers has taken you under the wing. Are you happy with your performance so far this year?
Yeah, I am. I mean, 5th in the Conacher Series was really good, but, you know, obviously I'd have liked to be a bit higher up. But to be here now and then to be going on to Bathurst later in the year is just absolutely fantastic.
You're still in a good position. Well done, and let's hope Paul Dumbrell could do the job for you this afternoon.
Thank you very much.
I often think about Leanne and Garth Tander, you know, her boyfriend and girlfriend, what the conversation would be around the dinner table. Oh,
look at this. He had to come in for a stop-go penalty. But look at the damage on the car. David Bernard taking over the reins of the Caltex Haviland Ford, and it has not been a good start. The wheel nut coming loose and rolling out into pit lane wasn't his fault, but he's got damage on the car as well.
Yeah, that's... Look how low the
sitting
front
down,
spoiler is, right? It's not going to last very long by the looks of it.
Johnson just looks in the rear view mirror to just check how close Scaife is. Precisely 1.2 seconds behind.
Russell Ingall is flying too in the Castrol Commodore. He's just set the fastest lap of the race on lap 65, a 1:11.62. That was about 5 laps ago. So Ingall's really pushing hard in the Castrol car. The level of competition amongst this top 10 is quite phenomenal. One little slip from any of these guys would be catastrophic. Look how hard. Oh, little lock brake there from Johnson as he turns through turn 4 on the infield section. Here is Russell Ingall right up behind Stokel.
Yeah, he's currently in 6th position, and he can easily make up a few positions in very quick time. Here goes
the battle for 5th, Matt Neal.
Yeah.
And here comes Ritter.
Now Stokel on the inside.
Ritter's car, yeah, Ritter's Stokel machine. And Ingall up behind him. So Matt Neal just gives him a bit of room. And this is an absorbing battle between the Shell Ford and the Castrol car. They're fighting over 5th place. Paul Stokel having taken over the car from Greg Ritter, who did a great opening stint. Look at this, up the inside goes Russell Ingall. He's going to get squeezed on the exit to turn 5, but a nice clean move. Stokel gives him room. And so Russell Ingall now up into the top 5.
Now, someone who knows what it's like to be a part of that Shell Helix team and drive for the Queensland-based team is Cameron Mclean, who unfortunately did not start in this race today. Now, Cameron, we've heard all kinds of rumours about legal disputes and various things. What's the story?
Well, unfortunately, Diffie, most of them are true. There's been a court injunction put on the car for this meeting, and there's some legal matters we've got to sort out next week between Paragon Motorsport and Greenfield Mowers, but we'll sort that out and hopefully be fighting on for the rest of the year.
So fingers crossed we'll see you at Bathurst.
I will be there one way or the other.
That's good. You're too good a driver not to be seen there. What do you make of this race so far, Cameron? You've been in this race the last couple of years. It's a tough event.
It is a tough event, and I think you can see how the guys with the guys like the Shell Helix team and FTR out, the Shell Helix team with the 2 drivers that are running in the series all the time have seemed to have a bit of an advantage over the guys that have got the one-off drivers, and that really in this championship now, how it's so competitive, that's making the difference, I think.
Incredible. I'd like to drive around in Cameron with the bumps and that, but by comparison to how it was, say, 2 years ago, there were hardly any bumps here at all.
The track is certainly changing down to the braking area in turn 3 and the braking area in turn 1. There is more and more bumps. Each year it gets worse and worse, and quite a hard setup in this car is good for the turn 1 and turn 2, but the harder you make the car and the stiffer, the worse it becomes over the bumps. So it's really a catch-22.
Incredible fight here. 1.3 seconds now, the gap between race leader Stephen Johnson and Mark Scaife. Their last lap times incredibly close. A 1:12.39 for Johnson, a 1:12.33 for Scaife. So we said they were swapping lap times within hundredths of a second of each other. That's what it is. And this is maximum pressure driving for both these guys. Mark Scaife, headlights on to warn the slower traffic he's coming through. Just up behind the Brock Owen machine as they come onto the pit straight once again. So you can imagine the tension in the pits. These 2 teams, the top Holden team and the top Ford team in the championship, fighting tooth and nail here. 360 points on offer, a massive haul.
It's
for
great
someone who can succeed.
Great for Steve. He's really got the bit between his teeth this year. And what's going on here?
Well, I'm not sure if this is a scheduled stop. John Cleland at the wheel, who's flown in for the race. He was running in 12th place, but now he's trickling down pit lane, so hopefully not a terminal problem for the Aussie male Ford. Those guys have been having a great opening stint.
Well, they've done pads and driver change and build and that, so I don't know.
This is unscheduled, definitely unscheduled.
Bonnets up.
I've just had a word to team boss Kim Jones. They believe it's a loose. In fact, that's what it is. They have just put, one of the spark plug cables or leads looks like it came off the car. They very quickly adjusted it. It seemed to run back on 8 cylinders immediately, and John Cleland was gone.
Well, hopefully something so simple can be fixed by a flick of the wrist. We saw this car go up in flames on Darwin's Hidden Valley circuit when a 20-cent part, just the clip on a fuel rail broke and pumped fuel all over the car. It was a massive fire. So once again, just a simple component slowing them down, but fortunately not nearly as dramatic as the Darwin incident.
If it was a plug lead off, the old mechanic's a bit brave, isn't he? With the power these city eyes put out, it would revolve your head, eyes in your head.
Now this battle, it's come down under 1 second now. Mark Scaife pushing Junior Johnson hard. It's 0.8 of a second last time around. You don't need the stopwatch, you can see it's a visual gap now. And it's very, very close between Stephen Johnson and Mark Scaife. Problems here. I think it might be Rick Bates. Rick Bates at the wheel. So stuck right up to the axles in the kitty litter. Paul Wheel car comes into pit lane.
Safety car.
Really? These guys are currently sitting in 4th position. You can see Paul Wheel there snap the door open. Tim Lay will hop out of the K&J Radiators car.
Well, that's handy for him because the old safety car's just come out, so he won't lose so much ground.
77 of 161. We're almost halfway through the VIP Pet Foods Queensland 500 safety car entering the circuit for the second time in this 500-kilometre race. The last time we saw it on the circuit was for when Rod Nash went off the circuit. They cleaned up his car and Neil Crompton, Craig Lowndes' car when that went off at the end of the main straight. So the second time this will bunch them up, and this will highlight the intense battle between Stephen Johnson and Mark Scaife at the front of this Queensland 500 field.
Has now put himself in a position to run away from the field again, but reminding you there are 3 events still to go in the championship. Double points on offer this weekend. Longhurst in 3rd place, so HRT in very, very strong shape at the moment. But what a move from Scaife. He was ready to pounce, and Johnson could do very little about it.
That was a brilliant move on Scaife's behalf. I reckon he's driving better this year than ever before. That was hot. You reckon, Lee?
So many, true, Baz. So many times you see people not quick enough from the word go after it. Here is the replay. This is once everything goes green. Now Scaife tucks in behind for turn 1. It's quite a good run up to turn 2, but watch him. He's right on the back of the Shell Helix Ford. Stephen Johnson knew he was there, but watch Scaife turns it in tight and then gets on the gas again. Under brakes into turn 2, and a very, very sophisticated move.
Yeah, and it's looking pretty strong for HRT. That Shell Ford is fighting a lone hand up there at the moment because you've got Scaife in first, Johnson in the Ford in second, Longhurst in the second of the Holden Racing Team Commodores. Then it's Russell Ingall in the Castrol car who has really been able to capitalise on that safety car. He was some 40 seconds down on the race leader, and now that's made up a lot of track position. There he goes there. So Russell Ingall flying in the Castrol car. Paul Stokel still in 5th in the Shell Ford. Simon Wills in the Cat car. Oh, contact between Tony Longhurst and Junior Johnson. What a dramatic moment going back to full racing. It looked like Longhurst was trying to sneak up the inside of the 17 car, and there was contact between the two of them. Hopefully it hasn't been heavy enough to do any damage.
Well, that may have been a fairly ambitious move. We'll hope to get a replay of that and take a look at that. There's Marcus Ambrose in the Pertec 40, some 2 laps down. Look at this bunch here. Greg Murphy caught in the middle of that. So too Paul Stokel. Here's your Shell Helix race score as they splash across the line. We know the top 3. Then it's Ingall on the surge from Simon Wills, who's in the Cat Ford in 5th. Greg Murphy from Paul Stokel in the top 7. Jeff Brabham behind the wheel. Or is it still Stephen Ellery? No, Stephen Ellery is still going on in the early part of this race. And then it's the combination of the young drivers, Adam Macro and Luke Youlden.
Well, Jeff Brabham did the opening stint for the Super Chief Autos team. Now Ellery on board. It's absorbing contest. Certainly the most thrilling Queensland 500 we've seen of the three held so far. Under brakes, Greg Murphy in the Kmart car. The sole surviving Kmart machine after the failure of the other car on the start line. So the order now, Scaife, 1.2 seconds up the road from Stephen Johnson, who just had a tangle with the second of the Holden Racing team cars. Have a look at this on the Shell Helix replay. Boof.
He did a good job to gather that up, Stephen
Sure
Johnson.
did. Big hard hit for the
really did.
right front wheel of Longhurst's car. Not quite sure of the contact point with the Shell car. There'll be nervous moments for the Holden Racing team, particularly when you saw what happened to Mark Larkham's car as a result of a similar contact with Larry Perkins early in the race.
Paul Wheel in the K&J Thermal car just sneaks up the inside of Dean Canto, and the number 6 FTR car moves up into position 10, but is a lap down on the front runners.
For all the fans in New Zealand, we know there's plenty of them for V8 Supercar watching on TV1. I can tell you that Angus Fogg in the Team Kiwi car, he and Jason Richards are into the top 15. Good effort so far for the Kiwis. 14th position at the moment for Fogg. And it shows a good, strong, consistent run here, and you can end up in the top 10.
And Simon Wills has had to adapt very quickly, because although he's the Konica champion, he became Konica champion in a Commodore, so he's had to switch very quickly back to learn how to drive a Ford.
Just got word from Tony Longhurst that there's no immediate problem with it after that contact there. Whether something develops, we'll have to wait and see. But in terms of trying to tell you, the viewers at home, where some of the drivers are where they are, well, I got a bit of a breakdown of the last round of pit stops. Those have done driver fuel tyres and pads, brake pads that is. The quickest was Greg Ritter at Paul Stokel on 28.2, 1/10 of a second behind Mark Scaife and the Radicic. Also a very quick stop to do all three things. Those who didn't fare so well, John Bauer, slow stop at 40 seconds, and Paul Morris at 46.3.
It's amazing how the complexion of this race has changed in the 2 years since its inception. In 1999, when Larry Perkins and Russell Ingall won it, it was a three-stop strategy. They stopped on lap 50, lap 79 and lap 110. Last season, Mark Scaife and Craig Lowndes stopped on lap 61 and 105 respectively, so they got through on a two-stop strategy. I've been down and had a word to the Paul Wheel team. They were the first to stop here today. They've stopped twice so far, and guess what? They've got to stop a third time before the end of the race.
Yeah, they came in early under that, I think it was the first safety car period. So that's put them out of sequence. Mark Scaife continues to lead 0.8 of a second. So Junior Johnson and Mark Scaife swapping fastest laps. Longhurst still in third, doing a great job at his first drive for the Holden Racing team. Russell Ingall well in contention in fourth. Greg Murphy in fifth. Simon Wills, Stokel in the second of the Shell Fords, well placed in seventh. Stephen Ellery, Adam Macro in the second of the Castrol Commodore. So those two Perkins-prepared cars within the top 10. And Paul Wheel, of course, in the K&J machine, is in 10th place.
Longhurst is going good. Longhurst has been quickest for the last 3 laps.
You can see there, it's Rick Bates there. There's Team Kiwi. They've run off. Angus Fogg has had a bit of an excursion on the outside. It looks like of turn 5. Just in front of John Clellan, who's working his way back after that team was so highly placed earlier. They dropped quite a bit of time. Cleland is now back in 18th position. And there is a bunch having a huge battle there. You can see the Valvoline car, the sole remaining Gary Rogers car, as we take a quick look at Stephen Ellery for just 2 positions further up. Paul Dumbrell, the 18-year-old Melbourne University student, is in the top 15. That's a good effort from him, teamed with Leanne Ferrier and their sister car. Not so fortunate today. Barguana and Tanda out earlier after that massive contact with Cameron Mclean.
Stephen Ellery and the Super Cheap Autos team doing well, running inside the top 10. It's a competitive position on home soil. This is a nominated test track for the Gold Coast-based operation. Jeff Brabham, the enormously experienced Australian international, coming on board as co-driver for this meeting and for, of course, the 1,000k race at Mount Panorama Bathurst.
Well, it's been a rather hectic day for some, and they're still enjoying it, while for others, it's over. And sadly, for our mate, our colleague, Neil Crompton, it was an early day, mate.
It was a very early day, Lee. Welcome back. I've come up here because it's safer.
No one will turn you around up here.
Please, nobody throw a full drink can at me.
Did he do a tyre or what?
I think so. Well, yeah, it's definitely exploded a tyre. Why it's exploded the tyre, I'm not sure. To begin with, I wasn't sure whether something had actually broken or the tyre, but they've had a look and the tyre's just shredded to pieces, and and obviously it stemmed from the incident earlier on.
But that caught your attention, didn't it?
Oh, did it ever? I mean, when the thing first jumped out from underneath me, it was the last thing I was expecting. And I remember looking over my right shoulder and the concrete was coming up quick, but I think I haven't seen it obviously, but the gravel must have grabbed it pretty well, because my earliest recollection of it was this is going to hurt.
What we couldn't understand from looking at the vision was when you came in for the stop to put the new tyres on, they didn't pull the damaged guard away from the wheel.
Well, yeah, well, like you would have a better view of that than me. I've got no idea what happened. I'm just in there, and once I get there all clear to go, it's time to go. So, you know, obviously you've got to leave it to others outside the car to make that decision. But they're not. They felt as though there wasn't anything obvious in the outer guard, so maybe something else was going on in the inner guard area.
Now, this is the Aussie male Falcon back in again, continuing problems for John Cleland, and this is really disheartening after Brad Jones put in such a solid effort to get them from outside the top 20 to inside the top 10 in his first stint. Now Cleland is back in again.
Just had a word to the team. John Cleland has radioed in. It is the same problem that appeared before. They believe it's electrical. They're checking all the lead points at the moment in the hope that they can cure it and get that V8 started once again.
That is hard luck for that team who were struggling earlier in the weekend. And it looked like their weekend had turned around, and now it's slapped them back in the face again. John Cleland. He'll be back for Bathurst as well as we take a look at the Pertec Ford Marcus Ambrose, how quickly fortunes can change. From pole position, he was on top of the world yesterday. He is now 2 laps in arrears and back in something like 21st position. Doing his best to try and regain those laps, but that is going to be a tough ask with less than 50% of this race remaining.
Sure is. It's been a tough weekend for a number of the crews. Neil, the Gibson Motorsport Falcon never really seemed to be right in the zone all weekend.
No, that's a spot-on observation, really, Mark. We just couldn't really get it in the sweet spot. Don't really know why, obviously, otherwise we would have. But we lost a lot of time in the first session Friday, and you know, in this game you can't afford to give your opposition any head start, and we did give them a head start, so that's frustrating. But no, we haven't really got the car working right here. It's the first time the team's been here with the Falcons, so we kind of expected, because I know from previous experience this can be a tricky track to set up for. And even the locals, the guys that are based here, found that it can be very peculiar as the temperature changes and the conditions on the circuit change, whether it's rubber or dust from the nearby mine or whatever, I don't know. But no, we didn't get the car 10 out of 10 at all. And I think that's probably the root of our difficulties. I mean, once you start to struggle, you know, you can't brake late enough because you can't turn quick enough, you can't get on the gas hard enough out of the corner to maintain a strong position, and then that makes you vulnerable, and then it's boxing gloves out.
Car 11, Russell Ingall powering on, still sitting in 4th position behind Longhurst, Johnson and Scaife. Just to update you too, that gap up front between Mark Scaife and the Holden Commodore is just less than a second. So Johnson is still staying with Scaife up front as we ride now with Russell Ingall.
Driving up in the same as the leaders. That's Scaife just coming onto the pit straight now.
So plenty of motivating words. How important is that for you as a driver, Neil, just to get that reassurance and that constant, just, you know, positive feedback? Keep going, everything's good, hang in there, mate, they're not too far ahead.
I think it's very important, and it gives the driver an idea of what's going on. You can use it to pace yourself. You've got to try and dance a fine balance here between using the tyres and keeping an eye on the opposition. See, we're only 90 laps in, still an awful long way to go, so the last thing you want to do at the moment is overstep the mark. You just want to keep the lead in sight. Russell's back in 4th there at the moment, so he's got the lead in sight. He's not an awful long way back in terms of margin, so that's actually a good spot to be.
What's interesting though too, looking at the speed of this Pertec Falcon with Marcus Ambrose on board, plenty of speed. You know, just must be wondering what could have been if they hadn't had that disastrous pit stop.
Well, if you had a point for laps led in this race, the safety car would probably take the honours. Stephen Richards turned around there by Paul Morris, driving under extreme duress. He has the flu and was later to head back to the pits himself for a little bit of R&R. Tough call, that one. And now the Valvoline Cummins team. Garth Tander, big spin into the pits with damage as well. Now, the timing of pit stops was critical. The first round saw some extreme variations. Tough for Ambrose, a very long stop. That penalised him. Skyfleet, well, this wasn't a pit stop problem. It was simply a problem getting back in there after he went into the kitty litter. Radisich in with a pit stop, and it was a good one too. Very smooth change. Steve Johnson jumped into the car. And there is Paul Morris, penalised by the flu. Lots of liquid there, as you can see, being poured into him, and he may well get back in the seat again. Matt Neal behind the wheel right now. Bernard, stop-go penalty and some damage to the car. It's been a rough run for him after a pretty solid start from co-driver Matthew White. Now Philip Skyfleet officially out of the race after this problem. And then we saw John Clellan, not long after he jumped behind the wheel after a good solid start from Brad Jones. We saw a quick fix from the Aussie male team. And Cameron McConville and Rick Bates stuck on the side of the road.
Back to it, the number 1 HRT Commodore still leads the way. Mark Scaife, around about 0.8 of a second over Stephen Johnson, and a similar margin back to Tony Longhurst and Russell Ingall, around about 6 seconds, between 6 and 7 seconds behind the lead car. So Ingall trying to claw his way back. It's been a great drive by this guy, Stephen Johnson, currently third in the Shell Championship Series, points second in this race. There is your race leader.
Neil, can you believe how tough this battle for the lead is between these three cars? Watching these lap times, 1:12.48, 1:12.35, 12.2. The gap has just stayed at 0.8, 0.9 lap after lap after lap. Absolutely on the limit motoring.
Well, it's fantastic competitive motor racing between two top teams and very evenly matched drivers, and that's always terrific. I mean, when you're nearly 100 laps into an endurance race like this and you've got such a small margin between the first 3 or 4 guys, that's always good.
Commodore's looking very strong. We've got a Ford in second place, and the next Ford is back in 6th. And the Commodores, as they've done here in the 2 previous Queensland 500s, looking very strong in endurance trim, particularly these blokes. They blew everyone else out of the water last year with superior tactics, great race speed. And it looks like they're doing it again in 2001 Scaife. But Johnson's not letting him go. It's still under a second. You're just talking hundredths of a second between these two in terms of their lap speed.
It's a fascinating battle up front. You've got 3 cars, 3 top line cars going hard at it. Look at Tony Longhurst starting to apply the blowtorch now to Stephen Johnson.
The margin's actually getting a bit tighter now, and Ingall on the last lap, Lee was the fastest man with a 12.1. All of them will be trying to drive their cars as straight as they can. Not cranking the thing sideways, not locking a brake, and just trying to eke as much out as they can.
Number 8 car comes in, the second of the Castrol Commodores, driven by Luke Eildon and Adam Macro. And I'm not sure if this is a scheduled stop. Doors open, there's some chat going on. We're on lap 97.
Yeah, communication problem down here. Adam Macro signalling that he can't hear anything. Obviously, that would be the team radio, so he's called them over to talk about it. Don't know whether it's the team actually weren't aware that he was going to come in, so it was battle stations as the young driver and former Formula 4 champion came on in.
Yeah, this field absolutely littered with former Formula 4 champions, 13 to be precise. As we see Steve Johnson round up the Rod Nash, Tony Ricciardello entry.
It's ironic that Tony's rounding up his old car there, isn't he? And he was actually the fastest man on the last lap. He did a 12.1 this time instead of Russell. It just goes to show that you're only as good as the machinery under you, because you know, Tony's been in this series all year and we've hardly cited him, and not to take anything away from his team with the other car, but trying to crank speed out at a top level is such a difficult, expensive, time-consuming thing.
Same for Thomas as well.
Exactly.
Really,
all of a sudden they've got good machinery under them, and they're suddenly factors.
Well, I know that you're going to come on board and agree with this statement, but it also proves, whilst we all get caught up in this hype, and it's great to see new young drivers come through, it just shows that age has nothing to do with it. Both those drivers over in their 40s.
Look, it's just down to the individual, whether or not they're hungry and they want it, as Brad Jones comes back in and looks like behind the wall.
Yeah.
That's sad. That is really... I thought finally they were going to get a bit of luck, or more importantly, a good result.
Oh, look at that. We're in a stunning 32nd there. Bottom line is that if you're hungry and you want it bad, it doesn't matter whether you're 15 or 55. I mean, we saw Brock, for example, go out in his last Bathurst, and he was caning everybody, some of them half his age. I mean, it just depends on whether you want it badly enough.
The Ellery Brabham Super Cheap Autos car is well placed in 7th position and still currently on the lead lap, and there is a long way to go, 61 laps to be precise, as we reach the 100 lap mark. You can see just behind the second Shell Helix Ford is the Deco Rug Karcher Ford of Mark Larkham and Wayne Gardner, and good to see that they're still circulating, although they have lost a truckload of laps earlier in the race.
Has just gone into the pits, and likewise this is the Bernard entry with Matthew White. but more panel damage there. There's been plenty already. They already taped it up, and the right front is in bad shape.
Going to be pressure here, Billy, for Holden Racing Team. Keep in mind this car has not made its compulsory pad change yet, the number 2 Holden Racing Team Commodore, so they'll be in there a bit longer than the second stop for Scaife and Bright.
Tony Longhurst will be wanting to get in and out very, very quickly. And here we go. Thomas Mazzira, I think, is he getting back in, or was that a crew member? Couldn't quite see. No, Mazzira is getting back into the car.
No, I don't think so.
Giving Tony some liquid. Did have his helmet on and was...
I think he's all ready to go, but it looks like Tony's staying in.
The plan, I think, is that Tony will stay in the car. He's just getting some fluids from Thomas at the moment. The reason this stop is taking a little bit longer, car 2 had not had its front brake pads changed. They are changing those pads right now.
Get ready.
Neil.
Over 25 seconds. This is still a pretty decent stop considering they've changed those front brake pads. And Tony Longhurst is back in action.
Did you get a total time on that, Greg?
Just over 30 seconds, Lee, around about the 37-second mark.
Well, that's not too bad, is it, considering the quickest today has been something like 28 seconds by the Shell 18 car, so not too bad for the HRT number 2 machine.
I'm not 100% sure of the way they've got their pit bay mark down there, but it appeared to me as though Tony pulled up well short of the end mark then. If you look at the T's that were on the ground, it was probably a good 4 or 5 feet. That's the sort of thing that can cost additional time when they're, you know, they've got all the gear laid out to go in position in the precise spots.
Well, there's an indicator of how much track position he's lost. He's just in front of his team leader, Mark Scaife, so he's almost dropped an entire lap.
It's a funny feeling when you come back out, Mark, when you do a double stint, when you come back out in the car after you've just done the light stint on it. You put 120 litres in the back of the thing and fresh rubber. It's an unusual combination. The car's so lazy with the weight, but you've got tyre grip back, so you've got to sort of relearn the traits of the car to figure out how to maximise the lap time again.
Mark Scaife hard at work in the number 1 Holden Racing Team Commodore. Stephen Johnson tracking him down. An absorbing contest between Ford and Holden. These two cars so evenly matched. Stephen Johnson tremendously fit in 2001. He really has worked hard on his fitness. He looks so cool inside the car. Just looks like he could punch out these laps all day. 1.3 seconds was the gap. It's out to 1.5 now.
Let's not forget that Stephen Johnson has the best record in 2001 when it comes to endurance racing. If you take into consideration the Clipsal 500, race 1, race 2 and race 3 in Canberra. And look at Russell Ingall, he is on the move. He's up to 3rd now and continuing this push forward. Let's not forget that he and Larry Perkins won the inaugural Queensland 500 in 1999. And here he is, the enforcer, is starting to push hard.
Yeah, he's pulled back 0.9 of a second on Stephen in the last 4 laps. So
he's also got Murphy not too far behind. You could see that Russell was just exiting to turn 3 then, I think it was, and there's Greg in hot pursuit. So Russell's keeping a bit of an eye on the mirror as well because he wants to try and stay out of Murphy's clutches.
Congratulations to Greg Murphy and his partner Monique, because they Monique gave birth to their first child a few weeks ago, Ronan Kevin. So congratulations. And we understand he's a healthy, happy little boy, so well done to them. Simon Wills continues to power on in the Cat Ford.
Greg's using 2nd gear at turn 4, which is a bit of an indication that he's hustling along, but his car balance must be good enough that the rear tyres will take it. So most of the time, if you're going to stroke the car through there, you're probably going to use 3rd preferably, but he's really pushing hard to try and get to Russell late in this stint.
There have been problems there for John Faulkner.
What do? You sort of short-change him 2nd and just stop into 3rd for the...
Yeah, they can be, depending on the torque arrangements in the engine, they can be very lazy and slow off turn 4 in 3rd gear, so you just need 2nd to launch it sometimes. And ideally, if you've got the torque of the engine and the chassis balance right, you've got reasonable tyre grip available to you. You want to get through there in 3rd.
It's been an impressive drive by Queenslander Stephen Ellery in the Super Cheap Autos car team with fellow Gold Coast resident Jeff Brabham. They started 17th earlier today and they are now up inside the top 6. So that car is still going very well, and that's not a new car either. That's the car that he drove all through last season as well.
Tony Longhurst back into action.
See, Tony's got a full load of fuel, but his last lap was a 1:12 flat, so that just shows you that you know, the rubber's an advantage. Incidentally, Russell did a 12 flat as well. Scaife a 12.1, Johnson a 12.2. Murphy was the slowest of that leading group. He did a 12.5, but that's only a half-second split across the top half dozen or so blokes.
Ingle down to 4.8 now behind Johnson.
Yeah, he just took another 10th out of it that last lap around, so we'll keep our eye on that margin. 4.8 seconds. 4.8 seconds, the gap between Russell Ingle and Mark Scaife. So from leader to third, we take a look back. This is Simon Wills pushing on in 5th. And here is the second DJR car. Greg Ritter behind the wheel, and he is just 1 lap down, currently in 9th position. Just talking earlier, Neil, about how important it is for these young guys to showcase their talents. Greg hasn't had too many opportunities, although he has been given a couple of runs by the Gary Rogers team over the last year. He's taken this opportunity with Dick Johnson Racing, and he's made the most of it.
Yes, he has, and he's doing very well this weekend. He qualified well, and he's proving to be racing very well. He's in the group, good car, and in a good car he's able to show his skill.
Now, will Leanne Ferrier get back into the Gary Rogers car? No, it doesn't look like it. Paul Dumbrell is doing a satisfactory job in the number 35 machine, and if you've just joined us here on your home of motorsport, we must say this is the sole remaining Valvoline Cummins Commodore. Garth Tander and Jason Barguana went out very, very early in this race after some heavy contact between Cameron McConville and he.
It's going to be interesting to see when Scaife and Johnson come in for their final stop. Tony Longhurst is going to be pretty handily placed. He's just completed his second and last stop, so he can go right through to the finish. So the overlap should be interesting, depending on how quickly the Holden Racing team car and the Shell Ford can get in and out of the pits.
Well, Russell Ingle has taken another half a second out of this guy, Mark Scaife. Scaife, don't get me wrong, he still enjoys a big lead. He's got 1.6 seconds over Stephen Johnson, 4.3 seconds now back to Russell Ingle. And this is getting quite interesting as we get longer and longer into this race. 1:12 of 161. It's been an interesting afternoon here at Willowbank.
You see, talking before about the way you're getting around turns 4 and 5 there, and Mark was using third, and then just eased the car across the road, used all the road. It'll also depend an awful lot on just exactly what...
If we pass and you buy, have a drink.
Quite often the mechanics have to remind the drivers to have a drink, Neil. You get so absorbed in what you're doing.
Team Kiwi car, big understeer on the marbles in turn 1.
The Shell team often say Radicic particularly just forgets to drink, and they've got to keep telling him, drink, Paul, drink, because you're just going to run out of fuel.
You've got to take a little bit frequently rather than a lot in a hurry, because otherwise it feels all hot and slushy in your stomach, which is dreadful. You're just reminding him to check his bars and check his bias. He didn't actually get a chance to grab 6th.
Okay, mate, we're probably going to get a few laps, so at this stage we'll put Bridie back in, yeah?
Well, there you go. Jason Bright to take over.
Most of these drivers are most unlike you then, Lee. We don't have to remind you to have a drink, do we? At least last night.
You can see the steering wheel on this new Holden Racing Team Commodore. It's got all sorts of readouts and buttons and latest technology.
Problems there for Anthony Tratt in the Toll Falcon. It's similar to your situation now with that rubbing rear tyre.
Well, Dick Johnson, a big weekend for you. Not only is Stephen running second, but you had a straight named after you here at the circuit. But the big question is, can Stephen catch Mark Scaife?
Well, we'll just have to wait and see. You know, there's still about 60 laps to go, so 50-odd laps to go. So it's a fair old lick, and anything can happen in this game.
My goodness, though, hasn't he come of age in this and this year particularly?
Yeah, he's done pretty well, but it'd be really nice to see him sort of have a good result here today, which would certainly help his championship hopes.
What about the car itself? Any more pit stops to come from Stephen?
Yeah, we got one more pit stop to go, and we'll just wait and see what happens. Whether we put Paul back in or not remains to be seen, but just looking from here, I'd say Paul's going to get back in, and he's looking pretty happy about it too.
Fingers crossed, Dick. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, mate.
Jason Bright and the team on standby here at the Holden Racing Team waiting for Mark Scaife. This will give you an idea of the sort of data that the Holden Racing Team are keeping an eye on during the course of the race. They're on the net here, logged into the Bureau of Meteorology here in Australia. You can see this blue patch here. That is moving. It's around about 50 k's out from the Amberley Airbase, which is just up the road. So there is the possibility of a storm before the end of this race.
Could make it nice and interesting, huh?
Whoa. As if it's not interesting enough, here comes car 1. So Mark Scaife, the race leader, comes into pit lane.
You heard Jeff Gregg, team manager, say, or it could have been Robbie Starr actually on the radio, say to Mark Scaife. Now we're probably going to put Bridie in, hey? And it looks like Mark is loosening the belts.
Yep. Didn't hear the response from Mark Scaife due to radio interference, but it looks like he's getting ready to jump out. And Jason Bright take it through to the flag.
Yeah, it's pretty humid out there, and Jason's going to be fresh.
This is a different strategy to car 2. They are not going to have to do a change of front brake pads here. That's already been done for car 1. Mark Scaife is out. Jason Bright getting in. We'll see how long it takes them here to put the fuel in. The tyres are already done. This will give us an idea of how much fuel is required to get them to the finish. 17 seconds gone so far. Bridie is strapped in. Ready to go. 24 seconds. That's a good stop.
Very slick stop from the Holden Racing team. Well drilled, but we hear that the
Nice and easy, mate. You're in a good position.
He took a little bit of time, Mark, to just fumble the belts in. He grabbed it, lost it on the left side around his hip, and then grabbed it again.
Here comes the 7E car. So the pressure's on these crews. 24 seconds.
Loosen your belt, disconnect your radio, and adjust the steering wheel.
The instructions being given to Stephen Johnson. Paul Radicic, the Rat, is getting set to jump back in the 17 Ford.
They must have a column height adjustment.
They do, yeah. I was just going to say they've got a seat adjustment and a column height adjustment.
The other thing you need to do after the stop is reset the anti-roll bars in the car and also reset the brake bias, because obviously you've got a heavy fuel load over the rear.
So watch this. Johnson has already got out. Now watch Paul Radicic. He'll pull the seat up to his position. There he goes.
Whoa.
And the steering wheel has already been locked in the position for Paul. So it's a great bit of engineering by the team.
It's a high chair.
Yeah, high chair for Paul. So it looks like a slick stop on the Monroe pit stop clock. He's got out about 3-4 seconds faster than HRT.
So it's a good looking stop.
So very slick work by the Shell team. Well in contention for this battle. Now what I want to see is where Tony Longhurst is ending up in all this.
Look, he's going to come out in front of Jason.
So he's come out in the lead. And the Ford fans go wild.
He's on cold tyres. Jason's on hot tyres. So that'll mean that Bridie can pull right up under brakes down into turn 3. It'll be close, and Paul's going to have to block down the inside here to stop the run.
And if anyone's going to block, it's going to be the Rat. Well experienced in hand-to-hand combat. You can see the Holden Racing team car closing in under brakes into turn 3.
Right on the inside.
Radicic, though, getting himself into gear as fast as he can. Got to get those tyres up to temperature. He's got a full tank of gas.
Very easy to lock a brake in this sort of pressurised situation, particularly the inside front. So the best thing to do is drive down the inside.
It's not the sort of situation that sort of a young gun would want to be in, is it, really?
I don't think it's a good situation for anybody. Don't think it matters how old you are.
Russell Ingall takes over as race leader. Greg Murphy in second. Stephen Ellery in third. All those drivers are yet to make their second stop. So this is effectively the battle for the lead by the time those second stops are out of the way.
Paul Radicic has run wide. He made a little bit of a mistake there. Jason Bright was unable to get through, but this is it. They're currently 4th and 5th on the road, but really battling for the lead. Paul Radicic. It was similar situation many laps ago, earlier today here at Willowbank, when he saw Jason Bright just reeling him in from 15th to 2nd, and he locks up again, the Rat. He'll have to make it a little tidier than that. Jason Bright will be watching this and waiting to make his move.
Corner exit speed will be down a little bit in the Shell Falcon now, turn 2, so that'll hurt, but he's actually okay now. Like, he'll have tyre temperatures starting to come up, pressures will start to come up, so he does have the luxury, if you like, of controlling where he wants to be and controlling Jason to some extent.
Can you imagine what the final laps of the Queensland 500 are going to be like if these two stay locked together like this to the end? There's no reason why they shouldn't, unless mechanical failure or a problem lapping a slower car intervenes. This is the most thrilling Queensland 500 race we've ever seen, and one of the most thrilling in V8 supercar history. What a battle.
And because he's on a full load, Jason's using second gear there in 4th gear, just trying to keep in touch with the Shell car, so he has to push hard.
So Radicic now starting to get into the groove, getting his brake balance right, getting his tyre temperatures right, getting himself comfortable in the car. This is one of the most important drives he's ever going to put in. His teammate Stephen Johnson, 314 points behind championship leader Mark Scaife coming into this round. 360 points available for a win. The Shell Championship is hanging in the balance.
And for the other teams, time is running out for that fuel. The fuel window is closing. Lap 118 of 161. The fuel window closes at lap 120.
Just goes to show how important something as simple as just fitting your seatbelt can be.
Yeah.
I mean, for Jason, he had to have that extra grab. It's all it took was that extra grab. It added maybe 2-3 seconds, and it's enough to change positions.
Neil, you talk about coming out of one of the turns just off the power in third gear. What is off the power? How low down the rev range would it be?
If you it's this corner here, turn 4. If you sort of stroke it through there in third gear, it's well down in the power range.
Number-wise,
high 4s, low 5s.
Yeah, okay, right.
Something we should make mention of is Greg Murphy, who's right in behind Jason Bright there. He's come out after his final stop. Brilliant work by the Kmart team. Look at this. He's right in the battle for outright contention. Up the inside. He's done it too.
Done it.
Side by side out of turn 6. Can you believe this? The two TWR Australia Commodores. Door handle to door handle. Oh, the touch between them two. Murphy doesn't want to give in. They want to argue. 220 kilometres an hour down the main straight, braking hard for turn 1.
Done it.
And Murphy sneaks up the inside.
Great drive, Greg Murphy. The Kmart Commodore is there, the sole remaining Kmart Commodore. They had a disastrous start when Rick Kelly, the car, would not go, and they pulled off before the lights even went green. And now the sister car, the combination of Todd Kelly and Greg Murphy.
This is fantastic for Paul Radisich. Watching these two Holdens get caught up in their own battle. That's going to allow him to a little bit of breathing space, see if he can open up a bit of a gap. So Greg Murphy, almost out of nowhere, the team just hovering around in that top 5. Slick work by the team to get him out in that position.
Where's the smoke coming from on Greg's car? Has he got
The
some
rear
damage
left,
there on
yeah.
the left rear?
So just a little bit of a body rub there. You can see the bit of body work flapping in the breeze. So Greg Murphy,
his pace looks pretty frantic, doesn't it? I'd say that he's going to get all over the back of Johnson pretty quickly, Radisich pretty quickly.
This is from the rear of the Kmart Commodore, looking back at Jason Bright.
Stephen Johnson, this is anxious times for you while the battle's going on between Greg Murphy and Jason Bright. It's at least helping, Paul.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the name of the game. You know, we really got to press on from here. I think we can. I mean, we've got a very good car, but so have they. And really, it's very line ball out there. I mean, I was pushing as hard as I could, and so was Scapey. I could see his car moving around a lot. Some laps I'd catch, some laps he'd pull away. There's nothing in it, so it's going to come down to traffic and who got out of the pits first, and that was us.
Slick effort today in the pits from you guys.
Absolutely. I mean, we've copped a lot of flack from our pit stops in recent times, and you know, there's no effort spared by these guys.
Here's hoping, Steve.
Thanks, mate.
Russell Ingall, a race leader, is into pit lane for his final stop. Watch the Monroe pit stop clock in the left hand of your screen. Stop watches. 16.9 seconds. So,
good outlap, Russ. You got to have a good outlap.
Doesn't look like they. I wonder what the fuel strategy is here. He's lap 100 and 120, so they obviously didn't have to put a full tank of fuel in to get him into the finish.
Yeah, we're talking about leaving it to the last minute. Lap 20 is where the fuel window ends. And look where he's coming out. Coming out in a very good position, Russell Ingall. Nice work. He is position one indeed, because he's come out ahead of Paul Radisich and Greg Murphy. So the Enforcer leads on lap 121. There's 40 to go. Can he make it 2 times out of 3 years?
He's got to be so careful on cold tyres, though, hasn't he, with everybody right up behind him.
Oh, he'll be right. There was a smart bit of tactics by Perkins that they held him out that long so that his final fuel fill was shorter than a full tank. That's well positioned. Oh, he gets very sideways. Just on cold tyres, the car proving difficult.
Yeah, that's it. It's
Paul Radisich up the inside. And rather Radisich has come on through. So nice move there. And around. Greg Murphy as well slots through. So continuing on.
Oh, this
what
car
a
eight.
fascinating battle.
That's the old cold tyre thing.
So 121 and 161, and the Macro Yulden car was being swamped there. Look at this.
Look at this.
And it's run wide, just went in there too hot, and it's allowed Radisich to get through. Meanwhile, the sister car leads the way further up the road. Both sister cars were passing each other.
Incredible.
The Shell cars were overtaking the Castrol cars, and we get back to it. Radisich begins the hunt, locks it up. After Russell Ingall, this is 3rd place. Greg Murphy, this one is going to go right down to lap 161.
Well, have you ever met a driver like Russell Ingall before? Race leader, smart pit stop, via Castrol Perkins, and Radicic is second, though. The top 4 drivers within 7 seconds in the Queensland 500. You can't ask for much better than that on lap 125 of 161.
Billy, I tell you how much that he wants this win and Larry Perkins want this win. The last time the Castrol Perkins outfit won a round of the Shell Championship Series was this very race 2 years ago.
Yeah, both Larry and Russell have not tasted the top spot of the podium for 2 years. And what a great fight back. This brand new Castrol Commodore was fast straight out of the box. 4.2 seconds the gap, and there it is. Paul Radicic in second, Greg Murphy in third, Jason Bright still in 4th place.
Well, we couldn't have asked for a better race so far, could we? It's been...
Whoa!
Oh, no, the end of it.
Marcus Ambrose.
What a turbulent weekend, eh?
Oh. Just amazing, isn't it, how you can be...
Guys, climbing out of the car.
Never rains, but it pours.
And that's a sorry sight. The Pertec Ford up against the wall. Our pole sitter, Marcus Ambrose, who was just looking so forward to this race. It's ended in rather unsatisfactory style.
Larry Perkins, Russell Ingall is in the lead. It's only a slender margin. How are you feeling right now?
Well, when it's still running and you're in the lead, you know, you're obviously feeling pretty good, but you know, I'm very realistic enough to know that it ain't over yet, and never over till the first car's done 162 laps.
It's familiar territory, though, of course. You've won it before, but that was a fantastic strategy there and a good pit stop.
It was an excellent pit stop, and we certainly very rarely do you get a gift of 7 or 8 seconds, and we got one then, and you know, we've made the most of it.
Be nice to be back on the podium again.
Oh well, let's not count our chickens, lads.
Okay, always coy. Thank you very much, and good luck to you towards the end of the race.
Oh, thank you.
He's a great character, Larry Perkins, 51 years of age. Originally from Cowangi, out in the Silo Town district of the Mallee area of Victoria. And a man who really has done an amazing job. Self-taught engineer. He's raced all over the world at the highest levels, as high as Formula One, before returning to Australia and becoming one of our most prominent, successful touring car racers and car constructors.
He's got a great sense of humour, Larry. He's dry and full of emotion. Then, well, I don't know.
I was just about to say that. I've been away for 2 years. Glad to see he hasn't changed.
He comes out with some great one-liners, Larry. You've got to admit it.
Just look at that smoke pumping from the back of that Kmart car.
Doesn't seem bad enough to be really hampering it all that much, though, does it?
It's certainly not slowing him down.
Well, plenty of nerves down here in the Kmart racing pit. Todd Kelly, has there been much chewing of the nails?
Certainly has. The car's actually got very good speed and it's looking after the tyres, but in the last 15 or 20 laps it's developed a bit of an oil leak and it's blowing a fair bit of smoke, so everyone in the pits here is quite nervous at the moment because we're in a pretty good position.
Been a tough week off track for this team. Be nice to have a good result, wouldn't it?
Certainly would. We really need the points at the moment, so I hope it hangs together.
Well done, Todd. Hope it goes well.
Thank you.
Guys, as I throw back to you, just very quickly, an eerie sensation down here in pit lane at the moment. Those black clouds are getting ever so closer and the temperature feels like it's going down as well.
Well, we've just had word from race control and they've been informed that this thunderstorm, there's lightning on the horizon and this storm is around about 30 minutes away. Lap one,
there she is.
Lap 129 of 161.
Wow.
So
bit of the old cumulus nimbus.
I'll tell you what, if you do get a big blast of rain right at the end and everyone's out on slick tyres, I wouldn't be surprised if they red flag the race. They've completed 75% of the race distance, they can do that. And that'll be a controversial circumstance, particularly with 360 Shell Championship points on offer. This is an absolutely critical round. Ever since they introduced the double point system, the championship really does hang in the balance on these 3 or 4 double point races. You can see that oil leak just belching from the back of the Kmart Commodore. Everyone in the team will have their fingers crossed the car will make the distance.
Well, this is the reason why we have Nigel Greenway, our statistician. There's 32 laps to go at 1 minute 11 a lap. There's around about 36 minutes to go. I wouldn't leave that one up to you, Baz, that calculation.
Absolutely,
but we could have rain. There's the wet weather tyres you can see there. It's just a standard one tyre, one compound. That's it. It's a control wet weather tyre as well from Bridgestone.
If you look through, you can see lock up there. You see the discs glowing. That last lap, the front discs glowing bright red.
That could be difficult for him. When you look where that oil's coming from, it could be a portion of that getting on his left rear tyre, and that gets a lot of work around here. Under power and taking a lot of cornering load. Chuck a little bit of oil into the bargain. Could make it very, very tricky for Merckx.
Todd Kelly was very frustrated after his one-lap dash in the top 15 shootout yesterday, but this team have really rebounded very, very well, and they're one of the strongest driver combinations in the field. Greg Murphy, the 2 times Bathurst winner, 2 times Sandown 500 winner.
To the desk, sorry.
And young Todd Kelly, who is a real rising star. So they're a very strong combination and sitting nicely in 3rd position at the moment. Jason Wright cannot seem to do anything about them. He's some 2 seconds in arrears of this car.
The top 4 teams, or cars I should say, are still within 7 seconds of each other. Good lap times from Ingle. In fact, on the last lap, just a shade ahead of Paul Radicic, who's chasing him. Radicic, incidentally, the only Ford in that top 4, and possibly the only Ford, the first to get on the podium in the history of this race, which admittedly is only going to be 3 years old at the end of this event, but still, Ford have had trouble here in spite of the fact that they've been pretty quick in qualifying, etc. But in terms of race speed,
they've never won a race here, Bill, even though this is the home test track for a lot of these Queensland Ford teams, so they really are hungry for success here.
Credit to Castrol Perkins to see just how strong they are. We mentioned earlier that it's been 2 years for a round win for Larry or Russell, but it's been a win not so long ago for Russell. Race 1 Hidden Valley this year, and he's hoping to make it number 2.
Just on that matter of rain, you can see the dark clouds over there behind me, but I can tell you someone who is praying for rain, and that's Bridgestone. They have 1,000 wet tyres they want to give away before they lose the tyre contract to Dunlop next year. But with me right now, I do have Ross Stone. Ross, what a reversal of fortune for you guys. Of course, you had the 2 front positions, and it really just has turned to the worst, hasn't it, today?
Yeah, some days you have days like that, you know. You learn a lot. You learn a lot from it, but you'd sooner forget about it and get on with it. But the potential's there. We've just got to turn that around, and I'm sure we'll be right.
What did you do? Did you run over a black cat?
No. You always we're big believers in you work hard, and the harder you work, the luckier you get. We've just got to get our head down and regroup. We'll be right.
Obviously, Marcus and David are still punching in the numbers. The car has always been quick, but it just didn't quite come together.
Yeah, and generally they're usually quite strong, you know, because you get to know how they finish a race. You know, whether some of the other shorter races, whether they would just scrape through or whether they would have done the whole weekend again without any maintenance. And generally we've been pretty happy with the way things were going. Just some days, you know, it goes against you, and the problem with our business is you do it in public.
You certainly do. The next one we go to, or soon we do go to Mount Panorama, the big one for the 1,000. Is that where it might change?
Yeah, I know, and that's coming around pretty quick, so that's one we've got to have it right for sure.
We'll keep your chin up, and we look forward to that event.
Yeah, we'll be good. Thanks.
Well, thanks, Ross.
When you take today's result into account, that old saying, some days are diamonds and some days are stones, it's pretty appropriate.
More like a rock.
3.9 seconds the gap between race leader Russell Ingall and Paul Radicic in hot pursuit in the Shell Ford, and I cannot believe how fast these lap times are this late in the day. 135 laps of this 161 lap grind, and they're still punching out low 1 minute 12 second lap times. Quite incredible.
And as the years go on and this Shell Championship Series grows in age and V8 Supercars grow in age, still not much changes. There's only a handful of teams that you can bank on when it comes around to the endurance races, and this team is one of them.
Quite incredible. You remember when they won Bathurst a couple of years ago? That's remember what Larry said? Oh, some teams spend money on palm trees in the pits and that. He's a classic of it.
Well, they had a real blip in the statistics last year when they had a component supplier from the United States.
Oh, yeah.
Let them down, and they had all sorts of engine trouble.
Well, that was That was the Rockers, wasn't it?
At Mount Panorama, yeah. So it was a real reversal of form there, but it looks like they've really got the engineering handle back, and the car is doing an absolutely superb job. Russell Ingall, so good to see the Enforcer back in a competitive position. Had a disastrous Shell Championship Series last year, and now he's right in the thick of things. Really wants to take the battle down to the wire.
Here's Matt Neal. He's been soldiering on ever since taking over from the sick Paul Morris, and it looked like David Bernard just pulling off the side of the circuit. So perhaps to the two Stone Brothers cars could be out. And he's down to 12, and he's getting instructions. There's something wrong.
Oh dear.
Desperately wrong with the car.
Oh,
and there's
flat.
Yeah. So what a nightmare of a day for the both Stone Brothers cars. And
it is the flat tyre, not keep going. It is a flat tyre, not a loose tyre, so keep going if you can.
Good instructions from the pits.
Yeah,
Let's not forget
really.
that there's points. Points are paid all the way down to 32nd position, and someone who will get, a team who will get points, and I can update you, we did earlier think that they were out of the race. They've fixed the problem and soldiered on, and that is the second Gary Rogers Valvoline Cummins car of Jason Bargwanna and Garth Tander there in 18th position, 10 laps off the lead.
And David Bernard just limped this around the pit lane. You just see the damage there. The wheel is now starting to wobble. Hopefully that'll stay on. Oh, goodness.
Oh dear, it doesn't look that hot.
Slow it down, David. Slow it down.
Oh.
Slow it down.
Ross Stone on the headset. Slow it down, David. So hopefully he can bring this back into pit lane without any more damage to the Haviland car. It's been a disastrous weekend for the Stone Brothers team after such a brilliant start in qualifying. But as so many drivers said in the press conference yesterday afternoon, qualifying is 5% of the job. The 95% comes on Sunday.
He's going to have fun and games getting around the next right-hander.
And that tyre may have come back onto the track too, because it had a fair bit of momentum as he flicked it off. It was coming back onto the circuit. So Bernard is okay now. He's made it into that pit lane entry. And he will cruise on down at a much slower rate. Lap 138 of 161. We're winding it down here at Willowbank.
See it grinding away that.
Did you hear what I just heard?
No,
we're
what was that?
not going to get this car back out. Is that what they said?
It sounded something back out. I didn't.
Or maybe we'll put a new wheel and we'll get you back out. We'll see soon enough.
The Stone Brothers don't give in that easily.
Oh,
yep.
look at.
Break for this, please. Break for this.
Oh, look at this. There's another one.
That's the McDonough Leighton Cranbrook car.
Yeah, he's had terrible problems with his wheels. That's a couple of times he's lost tyres. The right-hand side has made a problem purely because of contact on David Bernard's car. But this time, a left tyre, I don't know what for. He's been running off the track a fair bit, using full usage of the whole track to try and maximise his times and make up for lost ground. But he opens the door. He hasn't climbed out. Looks like he is going to go back out. Bit of front damage to the front bar also. But this horror weekend for David Bernard and the rest of the Stone Brothers team continues.
See what's happened here. The under tray under that spoiler's been ground off by that trip around the circuit with it rubbing against the road surface. So now they're just trying to tape up that under tray. It has quite a critical effect on the performance of the car, particularly the front end grip. And there's the tyre.
Oh, there's the tyre.
Sitting well and truly on the racetrack. So will we have a safety car to remove that? Only time will tell.
You can see some clouds off to the distance here. We've been talking about them over the last 20 laps or so. To give you an idea, that cloud cover is between turns 2 and turn 3. And from our position here on pit wall, it looks as though the rain is only a couple of kilometres away and inching further or closer to the track by the moment.
And Jason Bright has lots of problems, gentlemen, because his screen is fogged up dramatically, or at least oiled up, I should say.
There's the view from inside.
Oh,
Don't forget, he was following Greg Murphy's car for a number of laps when Murph's car was pumping out oil. And what he's done, well, we don't know what the problem is, why that wiper stuck on, but it's smeared oil all over his windscreen, and that is what he can see. And as you can see, he can see very little.
That's what he can't see.
Up front is 3.1 seconds between Russell Ingall and Paul Radicic, and through on the inside
Longhurst.
It's Tony Longhurst. Here he comes. It's the sister car working his way up, and he is on the lead lap.
Poor old Jason Bright. He's done a 1:15, he's done a 1:14. He can't see where he's going, so his lap times are suffering terribly.
Yeah, for Jason Bright, of course, the conditions are just horrific out there. Apparently the word is the water that's used in the wipers just won't spray onto the windscreen for some reason. They don't know whether he'll come in at this stage. He's complaining he just can't see a thing. They will call that decision in the next couple of laps.
What a nightmare for Jason Bright. 14.8 was his last lap. We'll check it this time across, but he's lost 2 up to 3 seconds a lap doing this. And the interesting thing is, considering the championship position here for Mark Scaife, whether Tony Longhurst will now lock in behind the number 1 car and fight a rear guard action in case there's any attack from the next car down the road, which is John Bowe.
Tony Longhurst nor Thomas Mazira are in championship contention. These guys are. You'd have to say the number 2 HRT Commodore would sit in behind. Now look at this. He's having to overtake here. This is really risky stuff for Jason Bright. During the ad break, we saw him run off the circuit several times. He's trying his best, but boy, is it under adverse conditions.
Oh, you've got to appreciate what a nightmare it is. You're trying to see the apex of the corner, and you know you're just getting within a sort of an inch of the apex of that, and you can't see anything. That must be that is terrible. terrible for him. I mean, it's...
Well, the next car on the road is John Bowe in 6th place. He's about 22 seconds behind the Holden Racing Team pair. There's not too much of a immediate threat of a rear attack. So Tony Longhurst will just sit in behind there under team orders to make sure the #1 car gets the maximum points haul they can. But what a difficult assignment for Jason Bright.
The Ingles lead down to 2.8 from Paul Radisich.
That's been fluctuating,
yeah,
though, Barry, over the last few laps.
Traffic and that. But,
Bright lights it up a little bit on the exit. There's only...
Doing a good job, mate. There might be light rain at turn 2.
There may be light rain coming soon, and one of the tricks with television cameras is that it always makes the picture or the place look lighter than what it is. I can tell you when we look out of our commentary box window, it is black here at Willowbank.
Robbie Starr, chief mechanic on the #1 car, just telling Jason words of encouragement. You're doing a good job, mate.
All that Jason wants is some rainwater on that, and it'll be impossible to see out of it if it is oil on there, which it looks like it is.
14 laps left to run here at the Queensland 500. And look at Tony Longhurst doing the perfect job as a team driver, just tucking in behind Jason Bright and keeping the others at bay. None of those drivers behind Longhurst, though, are in contention. The next driver back is John Bowe, but he's quite a few 20 seconds back, so he's not in contention at all at the moment.
Yes, Mark Scaife, Jason Bright out there is battling in the conditions. Will he last being out there, or will he have to come in?
Well, I mean, we're trying to not come in, Craig. The Grant. The thing about it is that when it's having a little spit now, you can see there's drops on the road, and we want it to properly rain because that'll fix the windscreen. But we've been running in and out and waiting for the rain to come, and if that happens, we're right. But don't want to come in because it costs us, I don't know, 30 or 40 seconds.
Will that throw the strategies way out? Like when to come in, when is it time to change to the wets?
Well, who knows? There's big dollops of rain now. It'll be on for young and old if it does hose. Might have to go back in there. We might, who knows what's going to happen.
I'll tell you what.
Well, it seems as though Mark Scaife's prayers have been answered. It is starting to rain here in pit lane. It's very light at this stage, but you can see the crews all starting to, I guess, get on standby. Will they need to put the wet weather tyres on, or will they stick with the slicks? That's the question at the moment. It is lightly raining in pit lane.
Hello.
And
Greg, we've got a problem here with car 2. You can see it slowing dramatically.
Down, mate. We're going to put wets on, okay? We're going to put wets on.
And you can see him. He's got to try and limp it around to pit lane now.
Lose a bit.
Look at that tyre destroying itself on Tony Longhurst's car.
Start, mate, but you'll get it back later on.
And you can see the sparks coming off because the rim has actually punctured the tyre carcass and it's rubbing on the road surface. And there could be the suspension dragging under there too. Oh, this could be a tragedy for the Holden Racing team so late. Look at this.
Go.
Now there's some...
That's the tyre. Yes, the tyre that was laying in the track.
Jason Bright, because he can't see where he's going, he's picked up that tyre.
Oh, what a shame.
It's come flying out the back. I don't think that's what caused Longhurst's puncture, though.
That's the third one we've seen in quick succession, isn't it?
Amazing. So Longhurst manages the long limp back to pit lane. Jason Bright still out there.
There was a bit of rub on the track. Brighty picked it up and it went under.
Well, there you go. Tony Longhurst telling the team that's exactly what caused that.
There you go.
Yeah.
And is that the piece of rubber that was thrown from David Bernard's car?
Yeah, you'd have to say it looks like about the size of it.
Or it could have been from the Donahue car. Who knows? We're just guessing. But this is Longhurst's car, the #2 Holden Racing Team machine, and it's going to be a quick change. That's disheartening because Tony was sitting nicely in 4th position.
Now, well, they're going to put wet weather tyres on the car. This is the big question here.
What a gamble if they do, Mark.
They've got wet sitting there, Bass.
Yeah, I know. It's...
They're going to do it.
Yeah, they're going to do it.
They're going for wet weather tyres. So, 149 laps completed. 161.
If it doesn't rain, what do you give them? Like 5 laps, 6 laps?
So Tony Longhurst, the first car in this field to have wet weather tyres on. However, it is not yet raining properly here at Willowbank, so this is a massive gamble. Now, out on the circuit, just looking out of the commentary box window, I can see one of the Castrol cars slowing dramatically. Whether that is race leader Russell Ingall or not, we'll have to wait and see.
He's just come round. No, it's the other car.
It's Adam Macro.
So, heart-stopping moments at the end of this race. Can you believe it? There's lightning flashing in the distance. We've got the Holden Racing Team car out there on wet weather tyres. Russell Ingall still leading by 2.6 seconds, the gap between Radisich. But John Bowe is now catching Jason Bright at about 4 seconds a lap. Bright is really struggling for lap speed out there at the moment.
From one Castrol car to another, and that's disheartening for Luke Yulden and Adam Macro. The two young guys have been doing very, very well today. Here's the sister car, the primary car, number 11, Larry Perkins, Russell Ingall. The enforcer is behind the wheel at the moment. There is 10 laps to go here at Willowbank before this man wins his second Queensland 500. And boy, has it been a testy day. High temperatures earlier in the day. We're under thunderstorm conditions now. Will it stay away for just 10 more laps?
And can Jason Bright hang on to that valuable 4th place? John Bowe is closing on him very quickly. 11 seconds the gap now.
Oh, was that Matt Neal gone off at the end of turn 3?
11 seconds the gap between the Caterpillar car. There's Matt Neal in the big Kev machine. Everyone's going off. Does this suggest we are getting a little bit more rain on the track than is obvious on the cameras? Everyone's starting to spear off all sorts of different parts of the circuit. So maybe it was a good call by the Holden Racing team to go to the wet weather tyres. Tanda Bargwana machine continues to circulate.
I think, as you said earlier on, Mark, I reckon if it really dumps, they'll just flag it.
It just depends on how many wrecks there are sitting around the track at the time, Baz.
Yeah.
Well, great to see this car back up and running, and they're now worked their way up to 17th position, and valuable points for the Valvoline Cummins team, because for 17th, they'll pick up something like 128 points. Every bit helps in this Shell Championship Series.
It's not absolutely saturated down here in pit lane at the moment, but this is probably the best illustration we can give you. Look at the way the dry cement is gradually getting wetter. That's about the rate that the rain is falling here at the moment. It's a question and a gamble now. Do they come in for wets? Do they stay out on slicks?
Not enough yet to have the wet weathers come into impact or have a full impact for Tony Longhurst.
1.9 seconds the gap between Radicic and Ingall. So the battle for the lead has come down less than 2 seconds.
You see, Longhurst on wets is doing 118s, and Russell's doing 115, Radicic doing 114. So you'd have to say there's no way the wets at the moment.
Oh, here comes Bright's in. Bright's in.
Jason Bright has come into the pits while sitting in 4th position. We've seen the troubles that this car has had, and now John Bowe in the Cat Ford has moved onto the podium. Well, not quite.
Up to
challenging for Murphy.
It's close though. Murphy still continuing with the oil pumping out of the car. Can you believe the drama at the end of this race?
They're going to have to put some kind of oil killer on that, because that is more that's not just a dirty screen. That's water, that's oil.
We're using oil dispersing fluid there to try and clean this screen for Jason Bright. Valuable championship points slipping away here. Paul Radicic still in second. This will drop the number 1 car down a position or 2.
Bring the tyres up to speed, mate. They'll be greasy as fuck for a while.
Yeah, bring the tyres up to speed. They'll be greasy for a while. Very, very greasy position track here at Queensland Raceway.
Wet weather tyres for both the Holden Racing Team Commodores now. So depending on which way this weather turns, this final 8 or 9 laps is going to be crucial.
That was Matt Neal running off at the end of turn 3, and let's not forget that Matt had a very big accident at the Oran Park round in the new VX Commodore for Big Kevin. Slammed it into the side of the wall.
Might be Paul Morris back in the Big Kev car. We're just checking on that. He might have recovered from his problems.
That's the Jamie Brock, Steve Owen entry. And we didn't quite see it then, but Jason Bright, word is that he just ran very, very wide into turn 3. Well, extremely greasy conditions.
The battle for the lead has come alive. Radicic is now within 1.5 seconds of race leader Russell Ingall. Here it is.
Oh, that's even less now.
Look at how he's closed the gap. The Rat in the Shell 17 Falcon. There's still plenty of time to take the lead. Russell Ingall struggling here.
On the track at the moment, you can do it.
Getting encouragement from the team.
7 laps to go.
Wow, this is
what an
nerve-wracking second lap.
Look at these guys racing on a knife's edge. They're both on slick tyres, dry weather tyres. So grip, very, very hard to find. He sneaks up the inside, or does he? Russell Ingall is known for his tough fighting. They're going to go side by side up the back straight. Radicic is beautifully positioned on the inside as they break down toward turn 3. Ford, Holden, who's it going to be? Radicic on the inside. Ingall goes a fraction deeper. He wants to argue. Radicic, though, beautifully positioned on the inside. And the Shell Ford takes the lead.
Magnificent start from Paul Radicic. He just ground Russell Ingall down. Now, can the Enforcer respond? And it is teaming down here at Queensland Raceway. Will the HRT cars come back into contention? Bright is currently 6th. Longhurst is back in 7th.
Well, Radicic isn't home and hosed by a long shot. Here's Bright running wide after that stop. So you can see the track, even with wet weather tyres, still greasy.
They were probably new wet weather tyres, Mark. They weren't scrubbed at all.
The top 5 cars are out there on slick tyres.
You can hear the panic scream now. Radicic has decided to come into the pits, and Ingall's coming with him. So,
look at this.
Conditions must be so bad you cannot stay out there on dry weather tyres. Can you believe this drama toward the end of the race? John Bowe and Greg Murphy now, who's in 3rd, will take over the lead.
Well, Jason Bright is around about a little over a minute down, perhaps a minute 20 seconds on these guys. This needs to be a very slick stop. It can still be a race win for Russell Ingall and Larry Perkins, likewise Radicic and Johnson, but they need to get out, and they need to get out fast.
Bit of a battle here in the pits. Looks like the Castrol Commodore may be coming out of the pits very quickly. Here it comes.
Yeah, the Commodore.
40k. He's
12 seconds was the stop for Russell Ingall. He's heading down pit lane now. It's taking a little bit longer for the Shell Helix team. Who'll get out in front here? And Radicic has done it. He's just edged ahead of Russell. Can you believe that?
Now let's take a look at where they come out back onto the circuit, because Jason Bright will be charging around. 6 laps to go, looking up the straight. Bright is nowhere in sight. Radicic still the race leader.
Keep in mind, Greg Murphy's in front. Murphy still hasn't pitted, so Murphy's out there on slick tyres. He's our race leader at the moment.
Best of luck to him, I tell you.
Very, very confusing here. So Greg Murphy, we're just trying to pick up a picture of our race leader in car 15. Still on slick tyres. What is the Murph going to do?
Will the Kiwi be able to hang out there? His last lap time was something like a 1:20, which wasn't too bad under these circumstances.
Oh, look at them tiptoeing around. It's like an ice skating rink out there at the moment. There's been a lot of oil laid down. You see the Toll OP car just running wide. Everyone's struggling for grip. Look at Ingall trying to get 600 horsepower to the ground through those cold tyres.
I have to say, the Ford looks better in the rain, doesn't it? It's getting a lot more traction in the rain.
Wow.
Can you believe this race? Now, you won't believe the amount of high fives going on down here at the Shell team. Now, that call to come in was instigated by Stevie Johnson. He was out there in the pit saying, bring him in, it's about to pour down. And he's right, because the decision to move to wet weather tyres has proved correct, because it's really coming down now out here.
Here's Greg Murphy, race leader. He's peeled off into pit lane, so Paul Radicic now takes over the lead of the race. Greg Murphy.
Around about 12 seconds gone so far, Mark. It's taking a little bit longer on the front left than this team would like. The drops in pit lane here of rain are very heavy.
Now watch the overlap here. It's going to be interesting to see where Paul Radicic and Russell Ingall are positioned on the track. He had a 31-second lead when he came into the pits, allowing for slowing down and speeding up.
They've already gone past Mark, so Radicic and Ingall are okay. Greg Murphy should regain in 3rd. This is your race leader, the Rat, Paul Radicic. Very, very heavy conditions. Be careful. The instructions from the pits, that is obvious, and there has not been a great deal of wet weather racing nor testing here at Queensland Raceway, so this is pretty much uncharted waters.
There's never been a wet race at Queensland Raceway in the 2 years of V8 Supercar competition we've seen here, so the drought has clearly broken. Everyone's back to a clean slate in terms of settings and what you got to do. But it looks like the Shell team, problems here for John Bowe.
That's while he was in 3rd position, and he has thrown that away. Well, perhaps a podium position, and it is gone now for the Cat Ford.
He was trying to stay out there on slick tyres, but the weather got too heavy, and look at the disappointment. The Cat team, now John's going to be stuck there.
I cannot tell you how hard it's raining. It's really coming down.
John Briggs in the team will not believe that.
Now, what are they going to do here? Are they going to bring out a safety car? Are they going to red flag the race? There's cars strewn all over the place, and meanwhile, this battle continues. It's an absolute thriller. 1.6 seconds was the gap. It's come down under 1 second now as Ingall gets up to full race speed. 5 laps remaining. About 15 kilometres of nail-biting action before the end of the Queensland 500.
Oh, I hope they don't red flag it, because it's going to ruin such a good race.
Well, we're that close, aren't we, to home? And Russell Ingall's not out of this one. Paul Radicic has a big challenge on his hands. Russell Ingall desperately wants to make it 2 wins out of 3 years. Look at the rain, it is pouring.
Hard under brakes. Just trying to avoid any wheel lockups as they come down at the end of the back straight through turn 3. Over the bumps, and look at Ingall closing in under brakes, and you've got to graphic indication there of the amount of rain. It's all over the camera lenses. The circuit looks like an ice skating rink. And here's the John Bowe incident. On slick tyres, John Bowe is a passenger from here.
Well, you have to say, as far as their respective V8 Supercars careers are concerned. Oh, he's gone! Radicic, the race leader, is gone!
And what about...
Spun out of contention. Russell Ingall went through on the inside, so Ingall has regained the lead. Radicic desperately tries to get the car back off the grass and onto the black stuff. So heading down into turn 4 and 5 and spun. So Ingall regains the top spot.
It's an absolute monsoon here at Queensland. A tropical rainstorm. And Paul Radicic, you could see him struggling trying to get that power to the ground in treacherously slippery conditions. And here's the new race leader, Russell Ingall.
Oh, no!
Oh, no! Big brake lock-up on the Castrol Commodore.
Look at that.
How long did he carry that lock brake?
Now he's going to need some valuable feedback here from the team. They'll need to instruct how much he has over Radicic so he can just calm it down. Stephen Ellery has gone on. No, whilst in 6th position. 18 seconds. Back it down for Russell Ingall. And apparently the race has been red flagged. Russell Ingall has won.
Well, hang on a minute.
Or it might
hang
go
on a
back
minute.
1 lap.
Because they always call a red flag on the lap previous
They do, yeah.
to the lap they stopped at Russell. Russell Ingall may still be declared second here. There's going to be a lot of discussion between the officials
about this.
Well, the team were patting Larry Perkins on the back, but that might be premature.
Well, no wonder they have red flagged it. It is absolutely bucketing down here at the moment. There's a bit of wind coming through with it as well. And the rain is really driving these very heavy droplets. And off in the distance, can you believe it? There's a break in the cloud. If only it had kept going a little bit longer, maybe it could have finished in dry situations.
Greg, we need to find out who has been declared the race winner, because if they pulled out the red flag, it's the lap previous to when the red flag was shown.
And that's what Larry Perkins is wondering as well, I'm sure.
Well, Nigel said it's definitely, I believe Nigel. Nigel's never wrong, and it's
Nigel
definitely
Greenway,
Radicic.
our race statistician, is saying Paul Radicic and Junior Johnson will be declared the winners.
We'll have to wait and see. There is the rat. He is beached, sitting off to the side of the circuit.
He's still got time. The water rat.
The water rat.
You'll be right. We're going to go and argue the point now. We were still the leader on the leaderboard at the time.
No, it goes back to the last lap.
There's going to be some arguments down there before this race is declared.
Radicic is
We're
the
hearing
winner.
from race control that Radicic and Junior Johnson are the winners.
Well, in the 3 years, the history of this race, this has been the most exciting Queensland 500. It's been the most drama-packed.
I have never seen anything like that, not only at Queensland Raceway, but anywhere. Incredible drama in the Queensland 500. What a thrilling finish.
We have had confirmation from race control that...
What?
And Junior Johnson are the winners of the Queensland 500, as the race results are always called on the lap previous to when the red flag was shown. So there he is, the water rat, and here come the fans.
Look at that.
Paul Radicic wins in controversial circumstances and drama-filled. That is unbelievable.
Hope that bloke's got enough elastics in his shorts.
Athletic-looking
We
chap.
might be cutting away early.
There's Stevie Johnson, and the team are delighted. Larry Perkins, well, what mixed emotions.
We saw a similar situation like this when Dick Johnson thought he'd won Bathurst in 1992.
Yeah.
And now he is on the receiving end of the red flag rule.
What an incredible race. Grant Denyer?
Well, Larry Perkins, by your own calculations, and it has been confirmed that the rat is the winner. What a way to lose this race.
Well, I certainly consider that Russell won this race, no doubt about it, but the official record will clearly say Radish, but it's the way it goes.
Bitten by the red flag rule.
Well, bitten by some little official up there who could have waited another 4 or 5 seconds for Russell to cross the line. He was still the man out there going hard and on the track, but that didn't happen.
How hard is it to drive in conditions like these?
Well, you can see it's terribly difficult, and you know, his young Radish is a good driver, but he couldn't handle the conditions, whereas Russell handled them well, and it's just a great pity from that perspective that Russell wasn't the winner.
Well, if Russell's the winner in your eyes, we still have Bathurst to come. What will that mean for you two?
Well, Bathurst is always a standalone race, and you know, here doesn't mean anything. You know, we nearly got it right here, but a whole new ball game come Bathurst.
Hard luck, Larry.
Thank you.
Well, pit lane is absolutely flooded, and it's flooded with tears of joy as well. Stephen Johnson, you have done it. Well done.
Oh, Rusty, that's just what we needed. I mean, we've given it to all of them all day. We've given it to Ingles. We've given it to HRT. And, I mean, to win here at our home track, you know, we were not the fastest car. We were consistently up there, and, you know, we've done it. The boys have done a fantastic job in the pits. It's all down to them.
Fantastic effort all day, and it was one of those races that could have gone anyway, couldn't it?
Oh, mate, absolutely. I mean, Scafie and I were seesawing back and forward there. It was so close. I missed the restart, got a few pebbles on my tyres. He got past. I wasn't too worried. Got into the pit stop, beat him out of the pits, and, you know, Paul's just driven fantastically today.
He certainly has. Now, that's the Queensland 500 you've won on home turf. Can you do it at the big
Mate,
one?
These Enduros, these double points races, I'm loving. Bring more of them on, so I can't wait to get to Bathurst.
You've got an awesome record, mate, when you look at the Adelaide 500, the 2 races there, the 3rd one at Canberra, now the Queensland 500. Keep it going.
Mate, thank you, thank you. Thanks to everybody out there for supporting us. Great, fantastic.
Pretty happy, Steve Johnson.
Right now, I'd like to call on the winners of this race. Brilliant drive from the Shell team, Paul Radisich and Junior Johnson. Well, what a fantastic moment, guys. Junior, you'd be well aware that a Falcon has never won a race here, even though there's a whole lot of Queensland teams that test here all the time. You've finally broken the drought.
Yeah, Mark, it's, you know, we couldn't have asked for a better result to the day. I mean, we've really worked hard for this. It's our home test track. We knew we had a good race car. We knew we didn't quite have the speed in qualifying, and, you know, go Shell and go forward.
How close was that battle in the middle there? When you were locked in that battle with those 2 Holden Racing Team Commodores, what a battle. I mean, it was just, you were separated by hundredths of a second, lap after lap.
I mean, that was a major boost for us. You know, Mark's a fantastic competitor, and I'll tell you what, there was nothing between our 2 cars. It just all depended on traffic, who'd catch who. But, you know, the good guys won in the end.
Let's get your teammate back in, Paul. We were calling you the water rat there. You were sitting in the car. It was pouring down with rain, but gave us the thumbs up. You must have known you'd won.
Well, I hadn't. I mean, what a way to finish the race. And in those circumstances, you never know. But, gee, Russell drove well. I couldn't do anything about him in the dry. And as soon as it started to rain, I thought, hey, this is my chance, and I really got to try. And I dug in, and it went for us. So, gee, the whole Shell team, Ford, all our sponsors, this is a terrific one for us to win. As, you know, this is our test track and home track.
Put your hands together, folks, for Paul Radisich and Junior Johnson, the winners of the Queensland 500 in 2001.